Welcome to the PODcast, the Pride of Detroit podcast, coming to you again for another week. We are live on YouTube, we are live on Twitch, and of course you can always get us on any of your favorite podcasting platforms. This week, we've got a loaded show. We're going to talk about some of the new rules that were adopted, some rules that were not adopted, and then we are going to preview Detroit Lions OTAs as they begin on Friday. Run for a couple weeks here, but before we get into that, we got some introductions to have. My name, of course, is Jeremy Reisman, the producer over at Pride of Detroit. You can find me at Detroit Online on Twitter. Taking over for Chris for a week while he gets some rest. Much deserved, much needed rest for him. With me, piloting, as always, co-piloting, I should say. I'm always, like, my obsession with the rehearsal, I'm just going to lean heavily into the piloting references with you. Ryan Matthews is here at Ryan_POD on Twitter. Ryan, how's our communication going to be during this show?
I think it's going to be pretty good. I think it's going to be light. I think it's going to be receptive. I think the important thing is, though, we have to figure out how our other passengers,
that's right,
flight attendants, like how do you extend this analogy? I don't know.
I want to say things, but I don't think you've seen the finale yet, so I'm going to button up. Yes, we do have a couple of guests here. As some of you may remember, maybe you joined in afterwards, maybe you didn't. We do a Movember charity drive every November. This year it was for the Rogel Cancer Center at the University of Michigan. And one of the perks, if you become one of our more generous donors, there we go, is that you can be a part of this show. And we were very blessed to have a very, very generous donation from the fellas to underneath me, if you're watching live. They are Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton, who are the co-hosts of another Detroit Lions podcast called Talking Grit. Fellas, thanks for joining the show.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Definitely. Glad to be here.
Yeah, of course. First of all, thank you for the generous donation. Thank you for the support of the podcast. I know you guys have been fans of it in the past as well, but I kind of want to hear a little bit more about you before we get into, Detroit Lions talk. Jacob, can you tell me a little bit about your podcast, Talking Grit?
Yeah, so over at Talking Grit, we just celebrated the 1-year anniversary from when we started. Me and Jason work together, so there's a lot of Lions talk that goes on at work. We kind of drove everybody crazy. And this was actually back when your podcast was not around anymore.
Sure.
You guys had that whole thing. And Jason just had a hole missing in his life. So he just sent me a message out of the blue. He said, you know what? Do you want to start a podcast with me? And, I think he thought I was going to make fun of him and, write him off. But I was all for it. And that's kind of just how it started. I guess the people at work were sick of us talking about it at work, and they thought, well, thank God they have a podcast. Now we won't have to hear it as much. And I think we started talking about it even more than before. So it, backfired on all of them. But, we're 1 year in. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, congrats, first of all, on a full year. I think when people pick up a mic and start a podcast, they don't realize like how big of a commitment it can be to be consistent, do it every single week. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if less than 50% of them even make it to a year, just because of I'm not gonna sit here and say it's like the hardest job in the world, but it's tough to have those commitments every single week. You give up a portion of your personal life to do it. So first of all, congratulations on that.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I did. Jacob's right. I did think he was going to write me off like immediately. I thought it was going to be one of those like, you're crazy. But at that time, you guys, like Jacob said, we're down, and I felt like I lost some friends. Like you have friends in school that move away and you don't
hear
from them anymore. I was like, well, I'm kind of at a loss, and let's do this thing. And it's turned out to be so much fun. We've got to obviously meet you, Jeremy, now you, Ryan, and those things that would not have happened had we not started the podcast. And I just look at so at your live event, I got to meet you again, Jeremy. I met you before, but I met you again. And I was just sitting at that your first live taping, and thinking, what a wild year. You guys first lose something that Jacob and I have grown to love. And we'd only been doing it for, 6 months at that point. I was like, if someone took that from me, I'd be, we're not nearly as big as you or anything like that, but and haven't built the community that you built, but it would have like ripped my heart out.
Yeah.
And then just fast forward a few months later, and you guys are doing a live event, and you guys are enjoying the heck out of it. It was great to be there to see it, and it was great to see you guys get that opportunity. And I like in this podcast realm that we can all root for each other and
Yeah.
root for success with everybody. And it was great to see you on that stage.
I appreciate you saying that. It was certainly a wild year, no doubt about it. Not only with the podcast, but with the team itself. And yeah, appreciate you guys being a part of it in the way that you are. And always, when I heard kind of your origin story, it was very flattering to hear, and was happy to be a guest. And I know I spoiler alert, I don't know if you want this out here, but I'm going to be a guest again very soon. For the people that maybe want to supplement this or, God forbid, replace it. I don't care. Where can they find this, and where can they listen?
Yeah, we're on, all the podcast platforms, your Spotify, your Apple Podcasts, wherever you want to get that. Jacob and I have recently started doing live on YouTube and Twitch,
Nice.
as well as Twitter. You can check it out there too. If you need any more than from these POD guys, you can listen to our perspective. I think Jacob and I, take it from a different, we're all kind of spitting the same information. Obviously, Jeremy, you're a beat writer. You get inside access. We don't have that. Jacob and I talk about it from our perspective as a fan, dealing with a family, dealing with that. I have season tickets. Jacob doesn't have. We kind of contrast our views of a game from my in-stadium perspective to his at home, and and try to contrast all that. I figured out throughout doing all this that people are just interested in your unique view and how I look at the game, or all the totality of Detroit sports, all everything that we talk about. So we just, we figure if we're talking about stuff we're interested in, we're going to find a community that sees that same way and just have fun. And that's the way we view it.
Yeah, and I think you guys have a unique chemistry, like you said, working together, things like that. You can tell the rapport is there, and a lot of times that's as important as the content you're actually talking about, right? The actual rapport between the people. Mm-hmm. It's what I've learned in 10 years of doing this, is that people care just as much about the people as the content that they're saying. So I think that's a strength of your podcast.
Oh, thank you.
All right, you guys want to talk some Lions football?
I think that's what we're here for. Yeah.
Let's do it. Well, this is, I guess, tangentially Lions football, because we're going to start with Tush Push, because there hasn't been enough people talking about the Tush Push yet, right? Obviously, the Tush Push was up for vote last week at the owners' meetings. Fell 2 votes short of what they needed. You need to get 24 out of 32 votes. They had 22, so it came very close to passing. Maybe it was Jason Kelsey's appearance that finally pushed them over the edge, whatever it was. But the big news from the Lions side is that they were one of the 10 holdouts. Dan Campbell had said at the previous owner meetings, like, hey, it's our job to figure out the play. We're not here to... It almost felt like he was calling it like a coward's route out, without overtly saying that. But and then I think it was CBS Sports that pointed out, of all of the Eagles' 2025 opponents, the Lions were the only team who'd voted against the ban, which again speaks, I think, maybe to the Lions' strengths. But I'm first of all, Ryan, I want to throw it to you first. What is your reaction that it didn't pass? Were you surprised that it didn't get passed? Are you happy that it didn't get passed? And what do you make of the Lions' strident against banning such a play?
I think when you get Diana Rossini reporting that it's dead, and then the Jason Kelsey stuff happens where it's like a closed door meeting, and making that final push, Lurie and the Eagles trying to make sure that they're going to get the Tush Push to stick around, and then it all just flipped.
Don't bring up Lurie's comments, please.
I steered from them because we're trying to keep it somewhat PG.
Yeah.
I think in the initial kind of fallout of everything, like we go from it being banned and some people dancing on the grave, and then others, mostly Eagles fans, like, throwing up their arms, and then have it to be resurrected. Like, it just had me think about, like, as a Lions fan, right? Like, how does this impact the football team that I root for and that I consume week to week? And I think you put out an interesting article, right? Like there are so many great moments where the Lions benefited greatly from what the tush push ban would have resulted in penalties for Detroit, whether it was last year's touchdown by David Montgomery that Penei Sewell pushed him into the end zone. That would have been a penalty, and that would have kept the Lions out of the end zone. I don't know if they really needed all the points in that Jaguars game, though, so I guess that kind of just is what it is. But I mean, we don't get also David Montgomery crowd surfing in Arizona, which was such an awesome moment from the season. So I felt like from a Lions fan perspective, I'm glad it kind of stuck around. I'm glad it helps kind of feed into the Lions were the only team on the Eagles schedule that voted to keep the tush push around. It feeds into like the mythos of Dan Campbell, right? Like I love that it continues to build that, but it also, I think I'll kick this to Jason first, but like I think with that mythos that's been built by Dan Campbell, the best thing as a Lions fan is that there is truth, validity, and authenticity behind it, right? Like he's not just Zeus up in the clouds throwing thunderbolts, right? Like this is a down-to-earth guy that all the Lions fans have all the faith in the world. And I guess from that perspective, Jason, do you feel like this will come back to bite the Lions in the ass, whether it's in that Eagles game that they have on the regular season docket, or if they meet in the playoffs? And how do you think Lions fans, from your perspective, like you mentioned, you run that podcast as like a fan's perspective, if it does end up biting Lions fans in the butt, like, do you think that changes their tune?
Okay, if the Lions lose, then everyone, will change their tune real quick, or the loudest voices will come right out. You will hear it, no doubt. Well, I changed my tune. No, I like that Dan Campbell has this, I don't know if you want to call it moral compass or whatever it is that guides him, and he stays true to it. That way, when you do stop it, you're way more proud of it. And that's just the way I want to look at it. In the years past, before Dan Campbell, yes, this would have bit us in the ass right away, and we would have been called out for it. And, it'd have been SOL, and that's just the way life would have been, and we would all accepted of it. Jake, Jeremy and Ryan, you guys would have talked about it on your podcast and tweeted about it and did all that stuff. And I don't know. I just like that they just do what they think is right. And then I think Dan's right. It's a play. Stop it. You just go ahead and stop it. And I mean, do I like the play? No, I don't personally like the play. I don't think they should have banned it, but it's a boring play. And I don't get excited about it at all. But if the Lions were doing that play, I wouldn't want them to ban it. I mean, if we're 95% successful on a play, I mean, you'd be mad. All Lions fans would be mad if someone was trying to vote and get that play out of there.
I'm not sure if that was Jason or if that was Ben Johnson talking, Jeremy.
Oh, Ben Johnson. Yeah, I don't remember what his specific quote was, but it was something like, "If you can't have an explosive play out of it, I don't like that play." I'm like, what?
Oh, shut up! Like,
what do you mean?
But
you never ran a fullback dive, Ben Johnson.
And that's what I mean. Like to Jason's point, where it's like if the Lions were benefiting from it, and if they could do it well, like their offensive coordinator would love calling that play on fourth down and knowing they have it in their pocket, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Jake, yeah. What are your thoughts on the tush push and the Lions being kind of the sole dissenter amongst Eagles opponents?
I definitely think we will hear about that on the broadcast, whether it's during the regular season, the playoff. As soon as it happens, that's what we're going to hear about, is how the Lions voted not to get rid of it. And then, if we stop it, great. If we don't stop it, here come the people online on Twitter, on the message boards, calling Dan Campbell a meathead, and he should have, instead of trying to prove anything, he should have just voted it down. I have the same thought. You got to come up with a way to stop it. I will say it feels illegal watching it, right? It's like everybody knows what's happening, especially in that Commanders playoff game where they're just trying to time it and they're jumping and, then the refs have to do the warning. Like, we can award the points anyway. Like, they're basically like, this is inevitably going to happen, guys. You just have to let it. I definitely think the defense is at a disadvantage because you can't tell when the snap is coming. I do not like the play, but at the same time, you can't really ban the play just because it works so well. Right. I mean, other teams have tried it. They don't have as much success as the Eagles do. I think right now, I think I saw it was at 87% success rate overall, which I mean is a crazy success rate for a play. But at the same time, you got to do what you can. It has been stopped before, so I really hope that they run it against us, and I hope that we stop it. That's what I want to see.
That'd be great theater, no doubt.
Right? Yes.
It would. I think my mind immediately went to that AFC Championship game, though, right? Where like the Bills tried to pull it off and they couldn't do it. Like Kansas City was able to stop it. Yep. And the other moment that comes to mind, and we had a little kind of internal debate in the Slack room at Pride of Detroit, but like to Jacob's point, like I think it's a dumb play. Like that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be allowed, right? That like those two things can both be true. I think it's a very dumb play. I think it's a boring play. So there's a little bit of Ben Johnson in me, but it's effective and it's a strategy, you know. And I think that's probably, Jeremy, where like Dan Campbell's coming from ultimately, right? Like it's their strategy.
Yeah.
Figure out a strategy to stop it.
Right. And I think the injury argument is really what the NFL tried to pull. Like there's a higher injury rate, but like there's not really evidence. Any compelling data to support that. I think the only way, well, not the only way because they got very close now, but the easy way for this to pass is for every team to be able to do it, because that's when the NFL's like, oh, everyone is pulling off these boring plays. That's unacceptable. That's the extra point from the 10-yard line, right? Like, oh, we got a 99% success rate on a 1-point play. We have to fix that. If it's only one team, that becomes very difficult to justify, because it's not a boring play when everyone else tries it, because it's not a 87% conversion rate. And so
that's the onside kick rule that they're messing with now, right? Yes. It's like, nobody can do it successfully. Right. Let's try to make it, more entertaining play.
Exactly.
I think another thing that you could do with the tush push is like the neutral zone is all over the place on this thing. You will see the center lineup over the ball, and his helmet is not supposed to cross that ball, and you'll see shots down the line and he's there, and the linemen's are supposed to be square to the line of scrimmage. They're all angled in. I mean, you could nerf the play a little bit and call it correctly and throw some flags out there. I mean, Kelsey talked about that he was warned by some refs, but they never threw the flag. So they start throwing some of those flags and that'd be a way to neutralize that play and still make it so that you could call it, but let's not take every advantage that we can take on the play.
Yeah. I mean, they started calling, offensive offsides on those offensive tackles pretty much right after the Lions-Chiefs season opener, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe lean a little bit more into the center. I kind of like that idea. I think we all overlooked the biggest benefit of this not passing, which is, of course, making the Packers look terrible. I mean, that needs to be celebrated, right? Like how much of a coward Matt LaFleur is. And this is another conversation we had in the Pride of Detroit Slack group. Was just like, that guy cannot handle losing. He cannot handle like something that isn't successful very well. We see him flip out on the sidelines a bunch. We see him not being able to stop a tush push and garnering this whole movement towards it. And to see him fall flat on his face, which is becoming kind of more and more of a thing, which is just wonderful to experience. Absolutely a fan of that. But let's move on to the next rule non-change in this case as well. The Lions withdrew their playoff seeding proposal after amending it. It was originally, hey, let's just reseed. All of the division winners still get a playoff spot, but once the 7 playoff teams have been determined, it's just by overall record. The Lions amended that, obviously, probably at the behest of the NFL, trying to get it to pass in some sort of way. Eventually said like, okay, first round, you still get that bye if you're a division winner, or that home game if you're a division winner. But then we reseed in the second round, in the divisional round. That's by overall record. That didn't even get close enough to passing for them to even keep it to put it to a vote. They table it. It certainly sounds like this is something that's eventually going to come back when possibly, everyone keeps saying when the 18th game is eventually added. I was very much like right in the middle of this debate. I did not have a strong feeling one way or the other. I'm curious what you guys think. Let's start with Jacob. What were your thoughts on the proposal? Were you mad? Surprised? Anything that it didn't even get close to passing clearly?
I didn't think it was going to pass. I mean, it would have been nice for it to pass because then you're rewarding the best teams over the course of the season. But I mean, if you look at any of the other major leagues, like, NBA, NHL, MLB, none of them do any sort of like reseeding or anything like that. It's just weird. Obviously, in those leagues, you have multiple games. So, those teams are almost guaranteed a home game because it's the best 3 out of 5, 4 out of 7 or whatever. It's not winner take all like the NFL is. So you've got that argument, but also, we do technically kind of reseed because the 1 seed gets a bye and you get to play the lowest seed that wins the game. So, why do we even do it that way then? You could just have a straight up bracket if you don't want to be playing with, So it's kind of weird. Like, we're kind of playing with the seeds, but we're kind of not. I didn't think the other teams were going to go for that because nobody wants, it's happened like 4 or 5 times in the last 20 years where they've had losing records or like just terrible division winners somehow get to host a playoff game. Like the Buccaneers. I know the Commanders got one too. Like, which I think you're at like a 50 or 60% win rate for home teams in the playoffs. So it's not like a foregone conclusion. So yeah, I didn't think it was going to pass. I can't say that I'm that upset about it.
What about you, Jason?
I want the divisions to matter. I think division play matters, and I want those games to have the utmost important. And also the imbalanced scheduling plays into that too, because at least with my division, I mean, I'm not playing all the exact same opponents, but 14 out of the 17 games are going to be the same opponents. The other ones are based on where you placed last year. And so if I'm going to be compared against another division that maybe had a weaker schedule, I mean, the record doesn't matter there. I would be all about maintaining the home position and then reseeding, like their secondary proposal, the one they amended. I'd be more about that than the initial proposal. What about you, Ryan? What do you think?
Yeah, do you guys know how many division titles the Detroit Pistons have won in their franchise's history?
No one knows because no one cares about divisions in basketball.
Because divisions don't matter in basketball, and it's stupid, right? Like, I think at the end of the day, everybody knows that the NFL does divisions right, and they want to honor that, and they want their sport to be a schedule that does reward divisional play because it keeps you in it till the end of the season, right? You're playing a divisional opponent at the end of the season. I mean, that happened with was it Bucks and whoever they played in the final
Falcons.
week?
Was it the Falcons?
Yeah, it was Bucks Falcons at the end of the year to kind of determine who was going to win the NFC South, and that's the part of the bill though that, or I guess the rule proposal that I was a fan of, is that I think it would encourage more play all the way up until the end of the season. Because, for instance, if you were to maybe get lined up with a divisional winner who, they go 9-8, but you finish with an 11-6 record in the NFC North, if you meet in the second round, well, it'd be nice if, that team from the NFC North would get a home playoff game versus that, 9-8 divisional winner. So I think there was a fine line that they were trying to walk between keeping the divisions and keep what's working, but also reward regular season play in its totality. So
because there was the Rams last year, right? They were stuck between the 6 and the 7, and they just didn't care, right? They're like, I don't care if we're 6, I don't care if we're 7, we're not getting a home game. But like if a home game was on the line there, maybe we see Matthew Stafford in week 18.
Yeah, it might be a little bit different, right? So, I to your point though, it's going to come back up. They're going to figure out some kind of way to maybe just like better explain this to owners too, because I don't even know if they totally understood it.
I think my version of some sort of compromise is like, okay, if a division winner is 3 games behind a wild card team, that wild card team gets it. Like if there's a Panthers in whatever year that was where they were 7-9 and made the playoffs, and some 13-win team had to go on the road in week 1, like I think we can all agree that seems a little unfair, right?
You could make the rule that I think there was a version that said like if you're under 500, you can't host a game. Yeah. I mean that could also suffice as a rule, and I could get behind that.
Yeah, I go back and forth because I'm with you. Like divisions need to matter. I still think they will. One, because your schedule is just so heavily loaded. The 1/30 games are divisional games, and you still get an auto bid, right? You still automatically make the playoffs even under this proposal to make the playoffs. But it certainly takes something away from them, and I see the danger in becoming some of these other teams, the other leagues where divisions mean absolutely nothing, and that's weird and dumb. And we like the division rivalries. We like hating the teams that we hate.
Yeah,
always welcome to hate more teams.
100%. The one thing hockey's tried this, right? And what hockey has done is with the, like in the East, for example, like with the Metropolitan and with the Atlantic, like having those divisions, they end up playing in the playoffs like time and time again. Like people made that joke about, oh man, we're getting another Los Angeles Kings Edmonton Oilers series for like the 4th or 5th year in so many seasons. And that has kind of backfired, I think, a little bit on hockey, where it's like you're trying to manufacture these rivalries, but you're just like getting like the same matchups over and over again in the playoffs. So you don't want to get stuck into that too. So like I could see their vision. It's just that they need to repackage it and make some tweaks, I think.
Yeah, I think ultimately it comes down to me where this problem, quote unquote problem, is infrequent enough where I'm just like, it's fine. It's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, Vikings, you didn't win the game that you had to win, so you got to go on the road.
Can't be upset about that, right, guys?
It did create an awesome like storyline and everything lead up to that game, right? I mean,
it raised the stakes.
Yeah, exactly.
You just play so many more games when you talk about NHL, NBA. I mean, you play so many games. That's why it's like each game, the value kind of diminishes. Yeah. You play 17 games, every single game matters a lot.
Yeah.
All right, especially when like 33% of the games are in division, right? So it's crazy.
It still remains a big part of the schedule of the rivalries. Last thing from the owners' meetings, pretty big one, at least it got a lot of coverage, was that the NFL teams will now be allowed to play in the Olympics, in the 2028 Summer Olympics, which will feature flag football for the first time. Now, there are some interesting rules around this regulation. Teams will only be able to send one player per country. So, you're not in danger of like losing half your roster right as training camp begins in 2028. Obviously, flag football is different from regular football. There's no guarantee that NFL players are going to be the best at flag football. I think that's something that people have to consider because there's going to be people training for years and years just for flag football, and it's a very different game. It's 5-on-5. There's essentially there's pass rush, but it's weird, and the physicality of it is completely different and basically completely gone. So, Ryan, I want to throw this to you first. One, are you excited about flag football in the Olympics? Two, would you like to see Lions players in it?
One, I'm definitely intrigued.
Okay.
Like, I think it immediately becomes appointment television, but I could see not being interested in watching it for another 4 years. Do you know what I mean? So I think it might be perfect for the Olympics.
Right.
Like, I think it might be perfect. Like, it's like, oh, okay, that's a little fun exhibition. Oh, hey, look, it's Khalif Raymond. That's cool. If he has dual citizenship anywhere, because like he obviously wouldn't be the one player I think from the United States to play in the.
It's funny because I was thinking of Khalif as a good person to play this game. I'm like because when I think of who might be good at flag football, I'm like, who's good at 7-on-7s? Who's good when like
exactly
you don't have to be with offensive line, and it's even less than 7-on-7s, right? Like you probably don't have linebackers or safeties. It's mostly just wide receivers versus corners, and Khalif kills it in 7-on-7s. The problem is 2028 is 3 years away, and he's already like 30, 31.
I know, but I mean, I remember Deshaun Jackson, like him talking about like training and getting ready for it, and even at his age, it's like I wouldn't want to bet against that guy. I watched him return too many punts to not think he would be good at flag football.
Right.
Which I think I'm kind of sensing a trend between our discussion, but I mean, like Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I mean, he has to play
for Germany, right?
100%, right? Like
Yeah,
they
so,
just
like,
have to do it just for the press. Like there might be really good German flag football players out there, but they have to say like, "Oh, Amon-Ra, you want to play? You're in." Like you made the team.
100%. I would want to wake up at 5 a.m. to watch Germany play somebody. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's the appeal, I think, guys, is that like seeing different NFL players participate in this. It's going to be fun. But are there any Lions players you guys think would be like a shoe in for the U.S. team?
Go ahead, Jacob.
Jameer. I played competitive flag football, and it looks a lot different. It's going to resemble the football that we know, but it's going to look a lot different. And I don't think any linemen are going to be out there. It's pretty much going to be, mobile quarterbacks, wide receivers, corners, maybe a couple running backs that actually, can catch the ball out of the backfield. So if I'm looking like, what Lion has the best chance, I 100% think it would be Jahmyr Gibbs.
Are you excited for
fair.
Jason?
It's football. It's the Olympics. I like both those things.
Fair.
But am I like, oh, I can't wait for this event to happen? No, I'm kind of like in Ryan's boat. Like, okay, this will happen every 4 years. Yes, I'm going to check it out. But is it appointment television where I'm like, I cannot wait to watch this? No, I've been excited about, or thought I've been excited about things before in the Olympics, and then it gets to that point, and I'm like, I don't know. I honestly would be more excited to see the non-NFL players play flag football, because I've seen some competitive flag football, and looks like a totally different game, and they use a totally different skill set. And they're like Ryan said, there's people that are trained for this, that play for this, that are probably gonna be more well suited than an NFL player trying to, pick up a playbook in a month or so and then try to think he's going to be one of the best in the world.
I disagree. The fastest, most agile people are going to be the best flag football players.
Yeah.
I know there's like in the headlines where that quarterback of the USA team, he's like, the NFL players just can't think that they're going to come in here and take our spots, or like however he worded it. Which kudos to him, but there's no way Lamar Jackson's not going to go out there and be able to throw that ball and move quicker than this guy.
Right.
And, you've got NFL receivers that are in there for a reason, because they're fast, they're shifty. You're not going to be able to find somebody off the street that's going to be able to move the way that they move, and that matters. Speed kills.
Yeah.
But how mad are you going to be if your player goes and then gets injured, Jeremy?
Right, that was going to be one of the topics here. Like if a Lions player goes, obviously it's not contact, but that doesn't mean you can't get a non-contact injury, or you can't go up and jump for a ball and come down hard on your shoulder, right? Like, it's something that needs to be talked about, and that's probably why I would imagine there's the one player per country rule. Is like you don't want to put so many guys up for risk for that, but but who do you even get mad at in that situation, right? Like it's obviously the player's choice to do this. The NFL has opened the door for them to do this. It could have happened in a training camp practice. It could have happened in a joint practice. It could have happened in preseason. And so, like, it's just going to be another one of those events where, like, you just cross your fingers and hope no one gets hurt before the regular season starts. But I don't think that – I would imagine that's not going to dissuade most, if any, NFL players from trying if they get an opportunity.
No.
Still, the
if they want
Olympics,
to do it, they're
still a
going
big
to do
deal.
it.
Right. The last talking point I wanted to make there is like, and I don't know if this is true or not because I haven't watched much flag football, but I wonder if there's also going to be an investment in two-way players. Like you have the obvious guy like Travis Hunter, and you're like, oh, like that guy seems like he'd be valuable on a flag football team. But like, I'm thinking about someone like Kirby Joseph, who was a wide receiver for most of his college career, switched over to safety. Is he a guy that like might be like a, I don't know, long shot to be a guy that could be on a team?
I think if you do get a guy that has multiple skill sets, Sione Vaki, right? Like somebody who can also run the ball but also chase down people. Like I think that's a unique skill set too, like playing defense, like what that's like in flag football. And a guy like Kirby Joseph is a really interesting name for sure. I mean, Dave Montgomery, saw how well he threw that football, right? But yeah, I think it goes without saying that you get these guys who are more multi-skilled and multifaceted, maybe from their amateur playing careers. Like that has to give you like a leg up.
There's also part of me that wonders if we're talking all about these NFL guys that could go play flag football. Is there anyone that maybe like shows out in flag football and is like, you just earned yourself a camp tryout? at the NFL level.
It could be cool.
It'd be an interesting story. I don't know if it could realistically happen because, again, I think we all highlighted just how different the game is, and then being able to do it not against air necessarily, but is press coverage even allowed? I can't imagine it is.
No, there's no blocking or you're not allowed
It's
to
non-contact. Yeah.
non-contact. Yeah, you're not allowed to shield. They call it.
So it's a completely different game, but it would be interesting. Like if a guy just shows up, like he's running really good routes, he's got great hands. Like, does that give him an opportunity to try out at some training camp? Just another filter system to the NFL.
I always think of Dan Campbell always calling it the pajama party, and that's kind of what this feels like, right?
Right. No doubt. You know what you can eat at a pajama party, Ryan?
Probably beef jerky.
That's right. Righteous Felon
meat
Craft
sticks.
Jerky. The Pride of Detroit podcast is brought to you by Righteous Felon Craft Jerky. It's the jerky that fuels the Pride of Detroit podcast, fuels your Detroit Lions. Each 2-ounce bag has 16 to 20 grams of protein in each. Beef stick has 8 grams of protein. Trust me, it's good enough for us on a road trip to OTAs, to Canton to see the Lions play in the preseason Hall of Fame game. It's good enough for you. Righteous Felon is based in Westchester, Pennsylvania. They use locally sourced all-natural black Angus beef and prides itself on superior quality, revolutionary branding, and unique flavors that go beyond the stereotypical jerky offerings. And for you, our precious listener, we have a coupon code for you. If you go to righteousfelon.com and use the promo code POD15 at checkout, you can get 15% off your order. It's POD15 at righteousfelon.com. They also have a bunch of other ways you can save money. They have programs where you can earn points, and it accumulates pretty fast. I'm not going to lie. I got a very good deal on the last time I ordered because I'm a good customer. I'm a repeat buyer because there's no shortage of trips that I would not want Righteous Felon by my side, riding shotgun, being my co-pilot.
You walked all the way there. Like I didn't have to do anything.
When we come back on the POD cast, we are going to talk about Lions OTAs, which begin this Friday. We're going to talk about who we're watching, what big storylines are out there, and everything you need to know to get you prepared for Lions OTAs when we come back on the POD cast. Okay. We are on break. Fellas, how do you think that one went? I felt like that was as smooth as any podcast segment we've gone at.
Ryan was lacking, but other than that, I thought Jacob did really good. I was number 2. You guys.
Whoa. Compliment from Jason. That's weird.
Wow.
Did you just MySpace top 8 rank us?
MySpace. You act like Jacob knows what MySpace is. You got to explain it to him.
Hey,
He
I was
doesn't
around
know,
for
but-
MySpace.
Oh, you
How
know
old are
what?
you, Ryan? We got to be close.
I just turned 34.
Yeah, I'm 35.
Oh, okay.
So I thought,
there we
right.
go. Yeah.
Oh man, that's all right.
Jason's
the stick
got
on
10
my
years off.
podcast, on our podcast, is that I'm really old, and Jacob
He makes
has to
old
explain
references all the
everything to me.
time. Yeah.
Mm,
Oh, that's what Eric's for, right, Jeremy?
that's right.
Our ageism.
That's right.
That who were we railing on last week about their ageism? Oh, Kowski.
Bukowski, who kept saying I don't know about this John Morton guy. He's 55 years old, and so what?
Andy Reid, noted incapable play
Tween?
caller. Yeah.
We're gonna hang out, joke around. If you guys have any questions for the Talking Grit guys, feel free to throw those in chat, or any general questions that you want us to talk about. The one thing we won't talk about is the rehearsal, sadly. We've gotten in trouble talking spoilers before. Let's not do it again.
I did not want to do a Last of Us joke. I was thinking about it at the beginning, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to do that. I haven't met Chris. That wouldn't be cool to do that, but I kind of.
Is he the one that blew it?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
But the good news for Chris is that his spoil job was two episodes into the season.
Yeah, it happened right away.
And it wasn't malicious in intent, obviously.
Oh, obviously, yeah.
All right, let me get to some alerts and then we'll chat here. David Lunch, thank you for the 28 months subscribed on Twitch. Marcus, thank you for following on Twitch. 3 days ago, Zipster, thank you for using your Twitch Prime here on Twitch as well. Q Note, thank you for where to go. 6 months subscribed to the channel. J Dubs 51 months says 51 months. Just wow, love you guys. I appreciate that, man. Frog Barking 10 months says go Loins. Go Loins. Teji 12 months says one trip around the sun. Love listening to you guys. Let's go Loins. Another go Loins. LJB Ruff 61 months says so many good memories and list casts. It's true. So many list casts. D-Lines fan 16 months says, is the Jared Goff chant gone this year? Go Loins. Maybe. I felt like I just heard it returned somewhere. Was it the Jelly?
I was at
Jelly
the Tigers game on Saturday and they were starting it.
Were they really?
Mm-hmm.
I think it happened at the Jelly Roll concert too.
That I'm fine with.
Because was it him? It might have been a different concert, but like someone was like, "Where are the Cowboys fans at?" And like I think he was just trying to antagonize the crowd for some reason. Then they started chanting Jared Goff. Then Eminem came on stage. What?
I think that was Jelly Roll.
Jelly Roll?
That's Jelly Roll.
And he had Eminem come out on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely fine with him doing that there because it's like Jelly
Yeah,
Roll.
Post Malone is a Cowboys fan, so
Okay. That I don't know. I don't know. I kind of think it might come back, to be honest.
I don't know. You throw 4 interceptions in the playoff game, and that's the last thing. I mean, that's what people think about. I don't know. He gets the win in. You win another playoff game. It's definitely back. But
right. I don't. Is that what people remember about that game? It's like it is so way in the depths of my memory.
Game?
Yeah.
I think people just remember the losing and couldn't stop anybody. I mean, it couldn't stop them. But
based on what I see online, the only thing that people remember from that game is Ben Johnson with 2 bad play calls. I feel like they have pushed the entire blame of that game to Ben Johnson, which he deserves a piece of the pie. I'm not gonna lie, but like I think they've compartmentalized with like, oh, we're gonna be better now because the one guy who lost the playoff game for us is gone.
Yeah,
he's a scapegoat. He left.
Yeah, he's absolutely
Right.
the scapegoat.
Like that, like him going to Chicago is the easiest way to just like, oh, here's all the blame on the way out the door.
Right.
Like that's everything else is fine. Everything else about that game was totally fine. It wasn't like Jaden Daniels absolutely. Jaden Daniels and Austin Eckler, like completely exposing the Detroit Lions up and down the field.
I feel like Austin Eckler is in that category of who's the Chargers wide receiver that was on the Bears last year?
Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen. Yes, exactly. Those two guys, for whatever reason, they just feel like Lions kryptonite. I don't even know if Austin Eckler has done it as many times as Keenan Allen has, but Keenan Allen is definitely just that thorn in the side.
Yeah, that was 2 weeks after we thought we had fixed our defense by Alex coming back. So like that's where like it all just hit the fan. I mean, giving the Commanders so many chances, extra chances with the ball didn't help either.
Right.
Yeah. They're no KJ Osborne, but they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Like do you remember how that? So I guess just to go down memory lane real quick, like that game, it was a 3 and out for Detroit, and then Detroit stops them on downs.
Yeah.
And then Detroit scores, and then Commanders kick a field goal. I mean, Lions are up 7-3, and then the third one. So like the one Ben Johnson where it's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
just pass that off to him. Commanders score a touchdown. Lions score a touchdown. Commanders score a touchdown, and then the pick 6 against Goff. But then they go score. You know what I mean? Like it was 31-21 at half.
Yeah. Not
like
wasn't out of
it.
it.
The game didn't feel like it was out, especially because it was like, okay, the Commanders are going to get the ball to start the second half. Lions stopped them, forced a punt, and then scored a touchdown. It was 31-28. Like 31-28, like over halfway into the third quarter. So it's like game wasn't quite over there yet. And then it was just over.
then everything went wrong.
Yeah.
You kicked Jacob out. He didn't want to hear about this Commanders game. He's done. No, his Wi-Fi dropped, but he's like, I didn't come here to talk about us getting our butts kicked.
I saw his video struggling a little bit there, so
yeah,
figured it was some internet issues. But better for it to happen now in the break than during the show. That'll get me back to some alerts here as well. Nick the Greek, 54 months. Hold on. Okay, I'll read it. Matt Patricia has a meatball sub tattooed on his lower back. Over time, it has become partly obscured by hair like an abandoned vehicle in the woods. Sure. Sure, Nick.
Oh, Nick.
Nick's been going off on Twitter, too. I don't know if you're still here, Nick, but I see you. I'll just say that. E-Wagon Maker, who helped me pronounce their screen name, 21 months, says it's pronounced E-Wagon Maker. Thank you. I'm always going to forget. Also, E-Wagon Maker also gifted a sub to Stingray. Appreciate that. Always love those gifted subs. Ryan, 241782. First-time subscriber using Twitch Prime, which I'll use as a reminder. Hey, if you're on YouTube or on Twitch, you can subscribe to us over on Twitch for free. It's a way to support us financially that doesn't cost you a penny, as long as you're an Amazon Prime subscriber or you know a login to an Amazon Prime subscriber. All you have to do is go over to Twitch, create a free account, go to the settings in that account, link your Amazon Prime account to it, and they will allow you to subscribe to any Twitch channel, one per month. It does not automatically renew, so if you did it last month, you got to do it all over again this month, but it's free every single time, one per month. Take the extra 5 minutes to do it if you feel like it. And then finally, Duckline, 28 months subscribed to the channel, says, so happy to have these 3 Twitch babies for a whole month. Beautiful Twitch babies. Okay. Were we talking about something that I wanted to get back to, or are we free to talk about anything?
You didn't want to get talking about the divisional round? You don't want to keep talking about that?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
I'll leave again.
Who will be the best Detroit Lions player in 3 years? Asked Riley O'Brien on YouTube. That's a good question.
Answer that question, but also answer who do you want to be the Lions' best player in 3 years?
I think my answer is the same as the best player that's currently on the roster. And I wonder if there's a debate about that or not.
There is, because I don't know exactly what you're going to say. So,
well, I think I know who you're going to say.
He's only 24, which is crazy to remember because he's entering his fourth NFL season. Is it fourth?
Fifth.
It's fifth.
Fifth. Yeah, it's fifth.
Penei Sewell. Penei Sewell, in my mind, is the Lions' best player, and there's no reason for me to believe he's going to take a step down in the next 3 years. I think he is the best right tackle, arguably the best offensive tackle, and he's young. He's not injury prone, knock on wood. And I mean, he just has the right attitude to continue to get better and better. Just listening to him talk last week where he's just like, I want to be bigger and stronger. Just like, what? You? While promising like he's not going to lose any of that crazy athleticism he has either. I think it's going to be, I'm open to arguments, but I think Penei Sewell is and will be the best player in 3 years.
I'm not going to ever count Hutch out.
That's where I was thinking was Hutch.
Yeah. Hutch is more fresh in position.
Right. Well, and also you think about the trajectory before that injury happened last year. I mean,
yep.
Which we'll see now this year, how much the injury affected him. Is he going to be able to get back to that level? We'll see. You're right about Sewell, not injury prone. He shows up week after week, brings it. So, I mean, it's a good, a good debate to have, right? Is which 24-year-old on your team is the better player right now.
Right. And at premier positions, that's good to have.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they go against each other in practice, right? You talk about iron sharpening iron, man. That's just perfect storm there.
It's Eric likes to say this all the time, and he's 100% right. But it's always one of the most fun things to watch during training camp. Is just those two go at it. It might, like, we're in year 4 of that happening, or year 3 of that happening, I guess, with Hutch. and it'll never get old. And I feel like they can, because those two are so committed to getting better and learning new things. I feel like there's going to be a new wrinkle every year, as one tries out a new move or one tries out a new technique. It's just not a lot of training camp isn't for everyone. I love it. I think it's one of the best times of year. But if I were to sell anyone on training camp, it would be sit here, watch this the entire practice. Don't bother with anything else.
And when you get the training camp, it's like you have to like pick something to focus on, because otherwise you're all over the place. I remember when Jacob and I went together and sat in those VIP seats. It was like, all right, we'll try to figure out. You look at this, and I think Jeremy, you've talked about it with Eric. You guys focus on different things because, man, if you have ADHD, you're all over the place. You're like, well, like a squirrel.
Yep, 100%.
I was taking detailed notes. I was trying to be everywhere on the field, and Jason was just eating all the free muffins that he could handle.
No. I was present and like trying to like, it's like, when you're, someone's taking a video, they're trying to video everything, but they're not like present in the moment. Mm-hmm. I honestly like to be present and be able to like focus on that. And Jacob's right. Notes were very helpful when we went back and did a podcast, but it's hard to juggle both. It really is.
Yeah. You have to really
How
learn.
do you do it, Jeremy?
Shorthands.
Do you take notes, or what do you?
I do, but I use numbers and arrows, and that's about it. Like, I barely write any words. It's more like graphics, like something I can write down really quick, like 48. Here's like a arrow of a post route, and then the defender on the play, and what happened. Like maybe one
on
or
Twitter,
two.
you should take a picture of your notes one time just to put it up, just to see if we could decipher it.
Yeah, probably not. Even with my terrible handwriting, I bet Eric has a much more clean. Like Eric's, he writes the entire both sides of the ball, every single number, where they were, everywhere, and that's like 2 or 3 of his pages, and then I think it's bullet pointed from there on. Like, here's each play, things like that. How
many color markers does he have when he does this?
He has at least 3. You may have been asking in jest, but he literally has at least 3.
No, I knew he had different color markers because his charts that he sends out are all like color coded, and I know he references color. I'm colorblind, so it screws the heck out of me. But yeah,
he's something, man, in a good way. Is there any other contender for best Lions player in 3 years? Like, is Amon around that conversation?
I don't think he's in that conversation.
Ooh, Gibbs?
Well, no, Gibbs was going to be. So that's what made me want to ask that second question. Like, who do you think is going to be the best player on the Lions in 3 years? I think it's going to be Penei Sewell, because why would Penei Sewell ever play for another football team in his professional career? In 3 years, is Jahmyr Gibbs, like, is he a Detroit Lion in 3 years? I don't know. Ooh. Just the shelf life of being a running back.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this was year 2, so like, yes, in 3 years he would be on his 5th year option. But like, I don't know. Like, I want Jahmyr Gibbs to be a Detroit Lion. I think there's a lot of historical data that I'd want to refresh my mind on when it comes to second contracts for running backs. But I think as the Lions have kind of molded themselves to be their own kind of spin on the San Francisco 49ers in terms of offensive skill position players and weapons, like, I think the difference between the 49ers having a down year this year and the 49ers being right in the mix again when it comes to the playoffs and the top of the NFC is how good Christian McCaffrey is. I think that has a lot to do with how respected they'll be. Because clearly without him this year, they were a shell of themselves.
They were still a top 10 offense, though. That's what's crazy. When you look at that, I mean, that's pretty amazing. That Kyle Shanahan, I mean, you could talk about his game management or whatever, but he is definitely OC to the 10th.
Now that Chris isn't here, we won't get any Kyle Shanahan slander. I still don't quite understand why he doesn't like Kyle Shanahan, but I think somehow he gets overlooked amongst when we talk about like the greatest offensive minds. Like it's still Sean McVay, It's obviously now Ben Johnson. I sometimes I feel like even, I don't know, like sometimes Matt Fleur gets more credit than Kyle Shanahan. I'm just like, nah, man. I
No,
think
Kyle Shanahan
the greatest.
does things that other other coaches can't do. One thing, Ryan, made me think when you talked about Jahmyr Gibbs, getting that second contract. I'd be careful looking at the numbers because he isn't like our bell cow. Like when you look at like a lot of running backs getting second contracts, they're overused, and we'll see what the next year, 2 years brings, but I don't. It's not like we're counting on him doing like 400 carries a year. So he might have more of a shelf life than, say, another typical running back.
That's an interesting point. Like, do you pay him a Saquon contract? Do you pay him a Derrick Henry contract? Guys that are workhorse backs? Just because he's that unique of a talent? And, like, I don't think they're going to go away from a split backfield, right? Like, they really like David Montgomery. And beyond that, I think they really like not overworking Jahmyr Gibbs, but if he's playing like the best running back in football, even though he's only getting a limited carries, does that mean you pay him less?
On the market's going to dictate that because if the Lions don't, another team will.
Right. That's a good point.
Back to Ryan's original point, is he on the team in 3 years? Or is he a Lion for life?
It's an interesting conversation. I would not want to be in that negotiating room. It's a tough conversation to have, and obviously the Lions are trying to do everything they can to keep every cent on the table for guys like him and Branch and JMO and whoever.
Yeah,
a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah, I think we were having this discussion internally in our Slack room, but like Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have a lot more touches next year than he's had in his previous 2 years.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
And I mean, he still had 250 rushing attempts and he had 52 catches. So, I mean, it's still over 300 touches.
Yeah.
And I think that he's in line for like more as long as his health can sustain it. Cause like his efficiency did not diminish.
True.
Do you think they flip it though and in the past Montgomery's got the start, right? And then Gibbs usually gets the second drive. Do you think they switch that and Gibbs is now the starter and they still rotate?
I think Montgomery is a big tone setting back. So I think that's what they like about using him to A, start the game, or B, to like kind of lean on him in the first quarter. But I think that maybe moving forward, it might be a little bit more situational. Like, I'm not going to say that Montgomery's not the starter, because I'm still probably one of the bigger David Montgomery fans, and I think that there's something very real about that 2023 game in Lambeau against the Packers that kind of just still sticks out to me. I think that's the quintessential, like, that's what the Lions want to do on offense, is just wear you into a pulp.
Yeah.
And David Montgomery represents that. However, I think like Jahmyr Gibbs is like undeniable, right?
Jeremy, are you ready for the questions coming up? Be like, are they using Jahmyr Gibbs more as a wide receiver or out of the backfield? Because those are coming.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do feel like that has always been the plan with him, is to have him lined up out wide more and more, and just for whatever reason, those plans have gone to waste. I think in his rookie season, it was maybe like, let's just not put that much on his plate. And then last year, if I remember correctly, he was dealing with some injuries in training camp that kind of sidelined that a little bit. And so I think it's coming. I mean, I think the interesting wild card in this formula is Tashard Choice. You know, Jahmyr Gibbs is like biggest backer. I'm not saying that he can't be objective about this situation and value everything that David is bringing to the room too, but it's a factor, right? Like, he's been with Jahmyr for his entire career almost, and certainly knows him front to back. So I don't know. I'm not going to delude myself into like the 7th straight off season where I'm like, okay, we're gonna finally see two back formations where we're gonna get both of them on the field. We're gonna get them on the field together like 10 times a game. I don't think that's ever gonna happen, as much as I would love for it to happen, because I don't know. It's just a weird, like, for being labeled as a running back hater, I love 2 running back sets. Absolutely love them. But I don't know. We'll see. I I would love to see it. Maybe that's something we see a little bit in OTAs this week. Kind of doubt it, but maybe.
Well, we got a new OC. It'd be interesting. I know he says not going to change too much, but maybe that's the thing that he's decided, and we're going to put Jameer and put our best weapons out there.
Yeah.
This is what I appreciate about Jeremy, though. And like, if your guys' podcast hopefully goes years and years and years, I remember Jeremy doing the same thing with Amir Abdullah and Theo Riddick.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I'm saying.
all he wanted was those two guys on the field at the same time, and like, he was for sure that would just unlock unlimited and infinite offensive potential for the Detroit Lions, which we don't know if you were right or wrong on that because we hardly ever saw it.
Right.
So
maybe that's the best thing for me, is that I can always dream that this is the best for the Lions, because it's never going to happen and no one will ever prove me wrong.
I mean, in the league, how often are they running 2 running back sets like that? I mean, Ben Johnson referred to it, like, when someone asked him the question, was, we don't have a lot of data to like go back on that. So, I mean, it doesn't seem like the Lions would just throw it out just because there's no data. Like, they seem like a team that would be like, if this is going to make us better, we're going to do this type thing. So I was just always curious why, it just doesn't create the matchups that they think. But you think with Jahmyr Gibbs, you put him anywhere, it's going to be a mismatch. You put him on the outside anywhere, it's going to be a mismatch.
Nothing I particularly love more than running back on linebacker. If I'm an offensive coordinator,
Jahmyr Gibbs on linebacker is even better.
I mean, fourth down.
Yeah. Well, hey, Ben Johnson really liked wide receiver against linebacker.
Throwing the ball. Is that what that means?
No, I was just coming back to why the Lions lost the divisional round.
Yeah, Jacob, you want to leave now?
Yeah.
I'm caught up on alerts. What was Demo's carries last year? Do you have those still up, Brian? Or were you just looking at Jameer's stats?
I was looking at everybody's stats. What do you like total touches?
So like 300 touches for Gibbs. How much? I know obviously Montgomery missed the last 3 games or something.
3 games, yeah. He had 221.
Okay.
And then can you name who finished in third?
In touches or carries?
Among running backs, touches.
It had to be Craig still.
Yeah. Do you think it could be Sione Vaki this year?
Yeah. I think that's like an underrated camp battle, is RB3. I think the hope is that you'd see Vaki take it over, but that's one of my few wins over Eric. He was convinced Sione was going to have at least like a somewhat significant role. I mean, not significant, but like they'd have packages for Sione to get him involved.
In year one, he thought that?
A little bit. By the end of the year, at least.
Okay.
And people are going to hate me for saying this, but I kind of feel like Tassal is almost going to be in the same bucket that Vaki was last year, where it's like, all these people thinking like, oh, they're gonna find ways to get him out there. I'm like, I don't know if they are.
I think it's gonna be interesting in our next segment when we get to that, because is that gonna, well, we could save it for that segment because I got a good question, especially for Jacob. But
then let's get into it. Let's jump in second segment.
Yeah, I think let's do it. I'm down. Let me pull up the screen. Let me pull up the outline.
Ryan's tired of crapping. He wants to get going. He's at that school. He wants to get home Memorial weekend. He's got to start school tomorrow.
I have the first 2 hours off because the seniors have already left. So like
nice.
I have a lot of time.
Okay.
But I'm interested in talking about Tesla. Like, I just want to keep talking about Tesla.
Picking crickets out of the vents. I'm just assuming that's something that seniors did that year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, they didn't really do anything crazy. I think I sent the picture. They like flipped the desks upside down and put red Solo cups on the bottom of them and spelt out 2-5, which was like infinitely more creative than last year when they just like piled all the desks into like a mountain in the middle of the room. Kind of like a Lord of the Flies situation.
Yeah. That's
okay. Do they always mess with the desks? Is that a thing?
They just don't really get to do fun things like the cool things that could do back in our day. you know.
Yeah, right.
I heard.
Wait till you hear what we did back in our day. Oh my God. It was like we didn't have cell phones or anything. It was crazy. No social media. No one knows what we did. It's all lore.
When you had to walk to school.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
Uphill,
5 miles
both
each
ways,
way, uphill.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right.
in the snow.
That's right. Yeah. There was no Uber back
With
in my
no
day.
shoes.
Yeah. No shoes. No, man. The Air Jordans were out, man. We had shoes.
All right. All right. Let's get it going here. Give me a second here, and we'll start off the second segment. And we are back here on the POD cast with the Talking Grit fellas, Jason and Jacob, talking Lions OTA preview to kind of, before we jump into maybe the biggest storylines, just a reminder to the fans what OTAs look like, when they're coming, all that sort of stuff. You may remember that the Lions have a shortened offseason program. This is because of the Hall of Fame game. Dan Campbell made the decision to get rid of mandatory minicamp, which is usually 3 days, and get rid of a third week of OTAs. So we're only going to have 2 weeks of OTAs this year for the Lions. Media gets 1 day per week, so we'll get one this week. They start on Friday, run through the weekend. Same thing the following week. We'll get one of those days each. I'll be there this week, won't be there next week. But if you don't know what OTAs are, or how they compare to the rest of the offseason program, basically up until this point, everything has been workouts, one-on-one individual stuff, a lot of rehab, a lot of conditioning. This is the first time in which offense and defense will take the field together and opposite each other. We'll see some 7-on-7s, we'll see some 9-on-7s, we'll see some 11-on-11s. But what we won't see is contact. What we won't see is pads. We better not see any contact because it cost them an off-season practice. What was that, 2 years ago now already? And so all of that gets underway this week, starting Friday. And I think on a very basic level, like the very first things you observe during OTAs, and it's worth mentioning, not mandatory, is attendance, right? And I think there are several guys where we're going to be interested. Are they going to be there? Aren't they going to be there? I think the first is Hutchinson, right? Obviously, we talked to him last week. He said fully cleared. But we know the way the Lions treat injuries doesn't mean you're going to be full go right away. So, Ryan, do you expect Aiden Hutchinson to just be out there and one of the guys and rip roaring ready to go? Or are they going to ease him in?
I think so. Like, he was ready for the Super Bowl, right? So, how much did you buy into the exactness, Jeremy, of the way that he just told everybody that he's fully cleared? Like, it wasn't really like mincing words or kind of beating around the bush. Like,
yeah.
How did you read like his tone and what was the room like when he answered that question?
I personally believe him, honestly. I mean, we've already started to see him pop up in some of the off-season photo galleries that, where they are just kind of conditioning and things like that. And I don't know. I mean, like, it also fits in the timeline, right? It's been, 8 months since October? It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Broken bones heal like that. And so, given everything we know about the guy and his commitment to wanting to play football and doing everything in his full ability to do so, like, I do kind of think he's just going to be out there and it's going to be like last year didn't happen. Another guy that I think is a little bit more mysterious here is Amon-Ra St. Brown. So if you remember all the way back in the Pro Bowl, he skipped out on the Pro Bowl due to an injury, undisclosed. And, we've seen Amon-Ra around. Like, he's been at Pistons games. He's obviously recording the podcast over at the Rookie Premiere a couple weeks ago. But he hasn't been in the offseason program photo galleries. And so it's kind of left people wondering what's going on with him. Is there anything serious? We haven't really seen him ever miss time with any injuries outside of whatever he was dealing during the receiver season, where part of his ligament was coming off the bone, and foot and mouth disease and all that gross stuff that we got to see up close. I I don't know, Jason. Is there any concern level right now for you with Amon-Ra?
I mean, would I like him there? Yeah. I mean, that would it'd be nice to have no questions at all. But maybe with the offseason crunch, he's just doing his stuff in Germany and he's just out, or he's just out doing his other stuff. I mean, we'll see in OTAs if he's not there and there's no one saying anything, then yeah, because it's not like a contract issue or anything like that. It'd have to be an injury. That would concern me.
What about you?
Those are
Dave?
questions last time he skipped, right? It was like, was that something to do with the contract? Was that 2 years ago then that he skipped the beginning
Yeah,
OTAs? Like,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
right. I mean, so I guess it wouldn't be brand new if he didn't show up, but obviously you'd hope that he'd be there. But I think it's kind of the same, in my opinion, for Hutchinson, is that it would be cool to see him out there. I don't know that he necessarily has a whole lot to gain from these OTAs, but you want to see him out there, and you know that he's trying to get back in football shape and everything. But I wouldn't sound the alarm if he's not there.
Yeah, and there's also like little hints here and there. Like I remember when we talked to Slaw after his first rookie minicamp, I think one of the things he says is like, "Oh yeah, I walked by Amon-Ra St. Brown in the halls." So like he's there. I think the implication there is that he's probably rehabbing or conditioning or something. But at this point, I'd be surprised if this is anything. Like it might be, he had like cleanup surgery, right? Like he went under the knife for something relatively minor, but it was probably something he was dealing with all year, and he's a freaking trooper, so he didn't tell anybody. But I mean, another kind of perk of these OTAs is we get to talk to Dan Campbell, which we haven't done since the owners' meetings, which is, I mean, it's weird. Like we talked to all the offensive coaches, all the defensive coaches. We've talked to all these players. We haven't talked to Dan in quite some time. So there'll be some things to catch up with him next week and the week before. I think the week after you get him twice. The other kind of, I don't know if I want to say bigger story, but like one that's already been kind of hinted at a lot is Alex Anzalone, who hasn't been part of the offseason program. He's, if you follow his Instagram, he's down in Florida with his family, as he usually is. So like that, I want to make clear, like there's nothing about this offseason that is out of the norm for him, in terms of where he's doing all of his offseason activities. He would usually come in for mandatory minicamp. Not sure if he's going to come in for OTAs, but there's also kind of lingering beneath the surface based on his social media activity. He might want a new contract. He's entering the final year of his deal. He's probably underpaid, considering there's been like this wave of linebackers getting paid. And so, and yeah, he's like constantly tweeting it. People were saying like how valuable he is to this defense, how there's not a lot of linebackers that can do everything that he does. And so I guess my question to you, Ryan, is like, what's your level of concern here that Alex Anzalone might like actually hold out in some sense? And to be clear, like I wouldn't even consider him missing OTAs a holdout, but like if that bleeds into training camp, obviously that would.
Yeah, I think they obviously value him. I think that he's an important piece of their defense. I think that was evident last season when he missed time. So I think he's important. He is 31, I do believe, right?
Yes.
Yes.
He's entering his age 31 season, so like this is the last year of his contract, right? He's kind of ranked like right among the middle when it comes to like linebackers. I guess if you were to rank out like 32 of them, I think he's like 18th right now in like a per annual average. I think though that the Lions drafted Jack Campbell, and I think the Lions have quote unquote like some leverage in this situation. Not that they would have to enact any of it, but I think that the Lions would be willing to take care of him, I think, to a certain extent, right? Like, I don't think they're going to go beyond their means just because we've heard Brad Holmes make comments about how wide receivers are expensive, right? And like, you just paid Derek Barnes all that money, and then you're going to, and it's not out of the norm, I think, guys, for the Lions to prioritize and to pay players at quote unquote non-premium positions like running back, like they did with Dave Montgomery, or with linebacker if they were to extend Alex Anzalone. But, I don't think that they're going to go beyond their means. Like, I don't think he's in line for like a 3 or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it would be very short term. I think that they would show him that they appreciate him with a sizable pay bump for like this season, right? Like if they have the money to do so. But I think they're set up for the future.
What do you feel about it, Jason? Yeah.
So I think Ryan's right on there. Like maybe just add another year on there, or just give him some sort of just to appease him. I think it's funny if you think back when he signed this contract, 2 seasons ago. There was a lot of people that are like, why are we paying Alex that money? And now 2 years later, we're like, he's vastly underpaid for where he's at. I mean, part of that is,
Yeah.
salary cap keeps going up, so then the contracts keep going up. But also, Alex has done his part on this team, and he worked really hard to get back, breaking his arm, and getting back and playing. And we all thought that was the savior at that point. We're not going back to the Commanders game, Ryan. But it's just funny how things just ebb and flow, and they just turn that way. I'm not worried about Alex missing it, but I just think because he's done this before, and he deserves to get paid for what he's done for this team. But the Lions won't overextend themselves for a 31-year-old linebacker when we have, like Ryan said, Jack Campbell right there waiting to go.
It's a tough situation, right, Jacob? Because he's also like a supreme leader of this team. He's also probably the guy that knows the defense the best, and we saw what the Lions looked like with and without him in the lineup. And so I don't know, do you have like a cap in your mind of like, this is how much I'd pay Alex Anzalone, or this is how many years I'd give him? Is there a clear line for you where you'd be like, it's this, or we're ready to move on?
I don't think his average annual value is too far off of where it should be. I mean, we just signed Derek Barnes, and I think his average is $8 million a year. And right now, Anzalone's like right around 7, I think. So maybe if you're Alex, you're just looking for a couple more years added on there. You're looking for something in the future, especially when you had the injury last year. And, if you're Alex, then you're looking at, look what happened to the defense when I was out. But then, you guys are right. When you're looking from Brad Holmes, the Lions perspective, like, look at who else we have. We've got younger linebackers. We've got other people back here. With the way that Brad Holmes works, the way that the team works, I wouldn't be surprised if we gave him like an extra year before this contract plays out. But I don't think necessarily like a salary increase. I mean, would you pay him more than Derek Barnes? Would we be offering like $9 or $10 million a year for him? Because that jumps him up to like the top of the linebackers. I think it comes down to, where do you value Matt? Is he important enough to put towards the top of that right now? We talked about with Jared Goff, obviously, when we were giving him that contract money. Okay, he's going to be towards the top, but give it a year or two, and then he's going to be falling down. I don't think you do that for a 31-year-old linebacker where you give him, top 10 money, and he's not far off. I think, is it Roquan Smith that's number 1 right now for linebackers?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, let's see. Roquan is at $20 million a year, and then you've got the top 10 is anybody making $11 million or more. Yeah. I mean, I guess if I was thinking of a number, I would still keep it around like 8, maybe 9, but you can't really, like, we've got too many, like I said earlier, too many mouths to feed. There's too many other spots that we need. So
yeah. But I think part of it too, Jeremy, right, is that Alex is looking at this as, this is probably going to be my last opportunity to really cash in. Yeah. Like if I'm looking for something like 3 years, right? Like I don't think the Lions should really entertain something like that. But you also bring up the point of he is a leader, right? A very vocal leader who makes a difference on the field for the team. So that's that tricky balance that you have to strike.
And to me, it's just the way that they talk about him. Like, Dan loves him. He keeps talking like he's the heart of the defense. Whenever he talks about like core players on this team, Alex is always included. And so part of me thinks like they might bend to his demands at least a little bit. Like I agree. Like anything beyond 2 years is doesn't make a lot of sense, but there is still, even if Jack Campbell takes another step this year, even if Derek Barnes stays healthy and is a weapon as the Sam linebacker, like there's still the will spot, right? There's still a starting job out there that is unfilled if he's gone.
Especially with Malcolm.
Yeah.
Rodriguez is somebody that we didn't really talk about.
Right. Like it might have to be an either or situation with him or Malcolm. And I think they'd pick Anzalone at, $9 million over Malcolm at 3. Because they can trust Anzalone. And I'm not saying they can't trust Malcolm, but like we're probably not going to see Malcolm for the first month of the season this year as he recovers from his injury. It just feels like a tough conversation with me because you can't shell out a ton of money for 31-year-olds. You're all right, like especially when you're cap strapped and you're trying to remain young and cheap, but he's a pretty darn important player to that defense. So we'll see how that progresses as the offseason moves on. But I want to move to OTAs and talk about guys who we know for sure are going to be there. I've tasked each one of you to kind of take the mic and talk about one guy that you're excited to hear about at OTAs over the next 2 weeks. Ryan, I'll throw to you first. Who's someone you're very excited to see, or I guess hear about in the next 2 weeks?
Well, just after our discussion about linebacker, I'm going to say Grant Stewart, because maybe he's your Alex Anzalone replacement. I'm joking. Mine is Jameson Williams, and I think that much should be obvious. Like, I think he's one of the most interesting players that the Detroit Lions have on their football roster for a variety of reasons. But I think the most rewarding aspect of Jameson Williams is that it seems like the cards were stacked against him, and he kept on stepping on the rake in the yard and was just doing so much growing up kind of in front of our eyes over the past couple of years. And I think that we're going to get a little bit different of a player and a football person. Both those things. I think we're going to get somebody who's a little bit different from the way that we hear people like John Morton talking about him, talking about how he's poised for a breakout season after he was a receiver who, eclipsed 1,000 yards last year despite not being on the football field again. Right. So like, I think I'm really excited to see what Jameson Williams has, where I think there's less questions about talent and there's less questions about maturity and there's less questions about drive. I think without any of those distractions, like I'm truly looking forward to like what an entire offseason program looks for a guy who isn't going to be missing time because of a gambling suspension, isn't going to be missing time because of injury, isn't going to be, hampered by anything. It's exciting for what I think he could put together this season for the Lions. So
what you're saying is best shape of his life.
Mentally, physically, Jeremy, in every sense of the offseason cliche. It's an exciting time.
Did he learn how to throw a changeup?
Ben Johnson's gone, Jason. He can't hurt you anymore. Okay.
Jason, who's the guy you're eager to hear about?
When you think about OTAs, you talked about the 7-7s, 11-on-11s. I'm going with Terry and Arnold because you're actually going to be able to see something. Like the wide receivers going against each other. I know there's that bump, they're not bumping and running, but they could still play coverage. I want to see, Terrion just really, I think, played better, especially with the penalties. We can talk about how last year ended up. He started out, he had 8 penalties in the first 4 weeks. He just had 3 the rest of the way. And so there was just growth there. And then, we're talking about the second-year jump and the line. This is obviously, the cliche is it's the biggest jump, but it's the reality, especially at that position, cornerback. I think it's going to be a very important position on the team. I just want to see how he, how his demeanor is, how he's covering JMO, right? I mean, he's going to be one-on-one against JMO at some point. So I just want to see how that player reacts. And I can't wait.
Yeah. Big year for him incoming. And I feel like this fan base is a little starved for a young cornerback to click because the last couple haven't really worked out as well as planned at that position. And so to have like a guy you can trust at both cornerback positions, when's the last time you've been able to say that about the Lions? Right. It's been a while. Jacob, how about you? What's the one guy you're watching?
I went with Tesla. Which is weird for a rookie wide receiver, a 3rd-round pick, to be somebody who's, got all eyes on him. And it's not really his fault. It's just we traded up, we grabbed him. A lot of draft boards had him round 5, 6. We talked about on the podcast, I was hoping for a really late. This is somebody that I had targeted like late 6, 7, into the draft. And then we move up, we get him in round 3. So it's not his fault, but, now the pressure is there. And the opportunity may not be, like where does he fit in with this team? That's somebody, I just want to see where they line him up, and I want to see if he looks lost. I want to see, is he ready? We gave up a lot to get him. it's another thing where most Lions fans, like if he's not producing right away, they're just gonna be all over this pick for sure. Which is not, like I said, it's not fair, but this is somebody that he's gonna be under a microscope in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be fascinating for him to be out there for the first time going up against NFL level talent, because even during rookie minicamp, it's a bunch of tryout guys, it's a bunch of UDFAs and guys that were picked later in the draft that he was. So it's a big step up. It's a big step up from Hillsdale. It's a big step up from Arkansas. It's a big step up from rookie minicamp. So it's all about taking those gradual steps. And I think what, even beyond like how he's performing on the field during OTAs, it'll be interesting to see how his teammates are reacting to him. Is he saddling up to Amon-Ra St. Brown? Is he talking a lot with Scotty Montgomery? Where is he getting those notes from that are going to eventually help him grow in his career? And his career is not going to be dictated by what happens in the OTAs, and fans are probably going to overreact one way or the other, as we saw them overreact to literally one highlight of him from rookie minicamp. But you're right. There is going to be a lot of pressure on the kid, especially as a local kid. There's already been a lot written about a third-round pick, seemingly more so than the first or second-round pick, it feels like at times. Yeah. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he responds to all that too, right?
Definitely.
Yep. Yeah.
I think when we talk about pressure, though, I mean, like, is he putting that pressure on himself? Like,
right.
How will he react to it? Like, that's the thing that I'm curious with. I kind of differ with Jacob on that. The whole Tesla, pressure on him. I just don't. If he has the right demeanor, then it won't matter. As long as the offense is doing their thing, that's going to fall to the wayside real quick.
Yeah, right. We'll be talking about Gio. We're talking about Tesla for months and months all offseason, and then when he's not in the starting lineup in week one, he'll just kind of fall into the shadows, and maybe he'll get some sub packages. Maybe an injury will force him into the lineup. But I mean, we all do have to be prepared for the fact that he's not a starter right now. He won't be a starter unless injury happens. But yeah, I think that's a good point to make, is that like, as long as the offense is putting up points, no one is really going to care right away, at least.
I'll probably put a doomsday clock behind me on the expo board for when the inevitable is Isaac Tesla, the next Broderick Martin, a third-round pick to not produce in the rookie season. I'll get that timer going for us.
Well, speaking of the clock running on players, my choice is Giovanni Manu.
Wow. All right.
No.
Wow.
No. I mean, I'm mostly tongue-in-cheek there. And obviously this is OTAs. The pads aren't on. I won't really be able to tell too much about how Giovanni Manu has progressed. But I think what will be interesting to me is, like, where is he on the depth chart? As we open up OTAs, is he the second string left tackle? Is that Jamarco Jones? Is that, Colby Silverstone? Is it
Miles Frazier,
Dan Skipper? Like, where do the Lions believe he has progressed so far? Because if you listen to them at the end of last season, they said, like, night and day from where he started to where he finished. But we didn't get to see any of that. I was a little bit surprised that we didn't see him at rookie minicamp, because a lot of times first and second year guys take the extra work to be there. And I don't know whether that's a good sign or a bad sign. I see him in the off-season program photos, so like, I know he's in the building. I know he worked with Taylor Decker down at his off-season program that he likes to do. That's a good guy to kind of hug around his leg and just don't let go. And so again, like, I understand at this point in the off-season, I'm not going to be able to tell how much better everything is, how much neater his technique is, and how much more physical he is, and all that sort of stuff. But like, you can notice the little things. You can notice where he is on the lineup, and generally speaking, there is going to be some times he's actually doing offensive line duties over the next 2 weeks, and I just want to see where the progress is, because I think it's I guess the range of possibilities with him is so wide that, like, he could be the left tackle next year, or he could be a permanent backup that never starts a game. And I think this offseason is going to be very telling which reality we're closer to.
Yeah. Jason, did you find it revealing at all that the Lions drafted what are, like, ostensibly two guards? Like, they drafted Tate Ratledge in the second round. They got Miles Frazier in the fifth round. Like, those guys project to be guards. Like, do you think that's telling at all about what they think of Gio?
No, I don't think so. I think the way Brad Holmes looks like is like this is still another. They still got another year of development on this guy. They don't know what they have. Miles Frazier's is nice because he could play up and down the line, and I think that that's what they value, and that's why they pick the guys. Some versatility in there, but no, I mean they want to get younger at guard. That was obvious from those picks. I don't know if it has anything to do with my read on Manu. What do you think, Jacob?
Well, I mean, Dan Campbell floated around the idea, right? I mean, I don't know. They tend to like offensive linemen that can be versatile. See if they can move over center, guard, play multiple positions, and see wherever they fit. Is that somebody that you have with Gio? From what we've seen so far, probably not. But I mean, I don't know. That's something that we're going to be looking for.
Yeah. They just don't have a long-term plan like beyond Taylor Decker, Jeremy. I think that's the thing, right?
And they might. We just don't know it. We just don't know it.
I mean, the long-term plan might be a right tackle right now too, right? Like that could happen in theory.
Sure.
But I think I would most like it if Gio was like, right? If the Lions looked into getting a guy that late to be, your starting offensive tackle moving forward, like that's a little bit of a roster construction cheat code.
Yeah.
Right? In terms of cap space.
And I mean, I wouldn't give up necessarily on Colby Sorsdal. Like, if in an ideal world, I think it's like Gio is maybe starting next year at left tackle. Sorry to Taylor Decker. You're going to have to make concessions at some point somewhere on the roster. Maybe it's Alex Anzalone, maybe it's Taylor Decker. And then, like, Colby Sorsdal takes a huge jump at tackle, and he's your Dan Skipper for the future. And suddenly, like, okay, you're 3 deep at offensive tackle for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Now, that's probably a pie-in-the-sky fantasy, if I'm being completely honest. That's if everything goes, the best possible outcomes they could go. But
sure,
that'd be great.
But I mean, like to Jason's point too, maybe Miles Frazier is that,
Sure.
6 offensive lineman. I think that was when we spoke to the LSU beat writer. That comes out next week, yeah?
No, we dropped that one last week.
Nice. Okay,
yes.
yeah. Well,
Just Law is the Pride of Detroit Direct episode that is coming this upcoming week.
Oh, we filmed them out of order.
We did. Spoiled.
But I mean, he spoke about how Miles Frazier could probably best fit in like that 6 offensive lineman role, like long term. He could be that guy, and if he can play tackle, great.
Yeah. But let's go back to guard here for a second, because now I want to talk about maybe 2 or 3 of the most interesting positions here. Guard being one of them. I want you guys to make your predictions, not for week 1 starters, but Friday morning or whenever the practice is. Who do you think are the 2 starting guards that they roll out their first practice of the year?
You go on day, so we're not talking week 1.
Not week 1.
I think it's
Friday.
I think it's gonna be Graham and Mahogany, just because that's how it ended up last year. But I'm not convinced that's how it's gonna be week 1.
Yeah, it could certainly. Do you have a week 1 prediction as well?
Oh, if you want, sure, I'll go there. I'm going with Tate. Tate Ratledge is gonna take one of those starting guards, and I think Graham's gonna have. I think it's gonna be Graham and Tate week 1. Barring injury or anything to play with it, I think that's the way it's going to play out.
What do you think, Jacob?
It would be nice to keep. Well, so first, I agree. I think Graham and Mahogany, like day one, they're the first ones to get a crack at it. You hope that Graham fights off these young guys and earns that spot because you want that veteran to be out there. But it's an open competition. So in my mind, I think Ratledge and Mahogany would be the starting guards. But I'm not discounting Miles Frazier because I really, really like Miles Frazier. And if he has a strong camp, it's not like the Lions are going to be like, well, we drafted you pretty late, so we're not going to be able to start you. Like, that's not the way it works. The best player is going to be out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they got 4 guys for 2 spots that seem open. But I think it's really they have 3 guys with 1 spot. Because I think Graham is going to be in one of those spots.
On Friday or in week 1?
I think in week 1. I think Friday and week 1, right? Like, I think that he's the veteran. The stuff we got out of rookie minicamp, Jeremy, like Tate Ratledge doing a little bit of center work too. It's like, okay, well, I do tend to agree that I'm with Jason and Jacob. They both agree that it's going to be Graham and Mahogany in week 1 of OTAs, but that's just going to be one of the more fascinating, like the offensive line, like we just talked about it with Gio, right? Like, where is he going to fit in? Like, I think that there's just so much open competition across the offensive line, both here and now.
Yeah.
That's one of the more fascinating aspects of the guard stuff. Do you think it's going to be the two quote unquote veterans? I know Mahogany's in year 2, but
I have a sneaking suspicion it might not be. And this is just pure conjecture at this point. Like I agree with you that like what you guys have laid out has been how the Lions have generally done it with everyone other than first round picks. Like first round picks have been the only ones that really, okay, you're first string right off the bat. Like we don't need to play games with Aiden Hutchinson. We don't have to play games with Penei Sewell. Like you're in the starting lineup day one.
Was it like that with Terrian Arnold?
I don't remember.
I
think so, but I don't.
I think so. Yeah.
But here's the thing: you mentioned Rutledge at center. I think they're still going to want to do that, play him at center, and get him a lot of reps at center. But if you think he's going to be your week 1 of the regular season starter at right guard, which I think most of us agree that's probably where that's going to head, you still want to give him right guard reps. And so I think we might see Tate Ratledge as the starting right guard and the second string center.
That's a lot to put on a rookie's plate.
That is. It absolutely is. But you spent draft capital on him. You spent second round pick on a guard. That's a lot of draft capital for that position. So I think it would make sense to do that. I'm not sure if that's where it ends up going. I would be just as not surprised to see them roll out Graham and roll out Mahogany. But like, I do also go back to the quote from Brad Holmes at the owners meetings where he's like, we're not crowning Mahogany with anything yet. Like the guy has started 3 games. They were great 3 games, but that is an extremely small sample size. He's still going to have to go out there and earn it. And so, yes, he's 1 year the veteran of Tate Ratledge, but you're also talking about a second round pick versus 6th, 5th?
6, yeah. Mahogany,
6?
yeah.
Like that's a pretty big disparity there. And so I think it would make sense to just like, let's not play games with Tate. Let's get him in there. Let's see how him and Penei work together and get going.
So when you said Tate would be the backup center, I mean, wouldn't so you're saying he would displace Graham? I mean, right now Graham's the backup center. So you would say that, what are you saying that because you think Graham's going to be the starting left guard?
Yes.
And then
Yep.
So you don't think that they would, a center is a pretty big position, especially for the Lions, that they'd move Tate over, but leave Graham at left guard. They wouldn't move Graham over to backup center and leave Tate at right guard.
I mean, once the regular season, comes around, I do think Graham might be the backup center. But I think in terms of like reps in training camp, reps in the offseason,
I got you.
I think you want to get Tate Ratledge as many center reps as possible.
I would think in week 1 where we're going there. Okay, now we're cool. All right, good.
Yeah, because like does Graham need the reps at center during training camp and OTAs? Probably not at this point in his career, right?
I mean, like he could take like third string snaps, right?
Sure. But there's also kind of
like,
that,
to a veteran, you wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? Like that's
Right.
kind of like the built-in. Like
Right.
he's done it so much, he doesn't really need training
Right.
on it. I thought for sure you were going to be like, plant your flag on the Coyote Awashika is going to start one day OTAs.
No.
Oh,
If there was a reserve guard who I would plant my flag, it was Netane Muti. But
yeah.
But after they've drafted 2 guards, I think maybe my Muti fantasies have been shipped away.
Over or under 2.5 offensive linemen the Lions have to cut this year end up on other teams' rosters.
2.5? That's a lot.
Muti's going to get cut, right?
I mean, probably, yeah.
Michael Neese?
I don't know. My niece gets picked up. Yeah, that's what I think.
Awashika? Jamarco Jones? That's what I mean. Like, I don't know.
2.5 is a lot. 1.5.
If 1.5, I think you're hitting me over, though. I don't know.
Maybe. We'll see. Let's move over really quick to the other side of the ball and talk about defensive tackle because obviously Lee McNeil's not expected to be there. Mekhi Wingo probably not, although Mekhi is like very much on the borderline because when we last talked to him, I think he said June was when he was expecting to be back, maybe late June. Wants to be out there for training camp at the end of July. But anyways, let's just assume no Mekhi Wingo, no Lee McNeil. So where does that leave Tyleik Williams? Is he a day one starter right next to DJ Reader, who is fully healthy this offseason? I I think there are a lot of questions in general about the defensive line, about who's going to be where, right? Like, is Josh Pascal going to be more inside, like Brad Holmes said he wanted him to be? Where do they put Levi? I guess, what are your guys' expectations, or I guess excitement level of just seeing where things lie in week 1 of OTAs, knowing that it could very much change in the next 3 or 4 months, I should say?
I'll kick it off. I think it's just going to be they're going to, especially in OTAs, they're going to try all the combinations and just see what happens. And, your hope for week 1 that Tyreek is just ready, and maybe not take Aleem McNeil snaps, like the amount of snaps, but you're hoping that we feel comfortable enough with him starting. And that would be the easiest solution for the Lions too. And then just rotate in and guys out based on, situation or whatnot. But I think you're going to just see, Jeremy, when you're at practice, you're just going to see them moving guys all over the place. And then by the time we get the training camp, we might get a better idea of where we're at,
Yeah, this is the time of year to test things out, right? Just to see how comfortable people are playing next to each other in certain positions, inside, outside. I don't know. Jacob, what's your, I guess, expectations for Tyreek, since obviously there's going to be a lot of focus on him. And there's also a chance maybe we don't see a ton of Tyreek, because when we were at rookie minicamp, he was pretty limited.
Right. It's hard to say with the OTAs. As far as like training camp goes, then you talk about moving him around with Levi and seeing, does Levi just slot in where Aleem was? And then Tyreek comes as rotational. Back to what we said earlier, it seems that first round picks are the ones that get the most playing time there, though. So you would hope that he, performs quickly and kind of makes up for what Aleem was. I think that Levi is going to be playing more than Tyreek is, at defensive tackle. Levi had to play outside a lot because Hutch was gone. Now that Hutch is back, we'll see as far as who's lining up on edge. Like you said, Josh Pascal, Davenport, what are we going to do? Is Zadarius coming back? But yeah, for Tyreek, it's tough. I'm not expecting a whole lot. I think it's going to be a rotational piece. I don't know that he's going to be out there, for like 60, 70% of defensive snaps.
Ryan, what do you have like a dream lineup? What does it look like?
A dream lineup sans Aleem McNeil, or
Sure,
including him?
Let's start without Aleem McNeil, since the Lions are going to have to deal with that reality for the first month of the season.
Yeah, I think honestly, like, early on, I do want to see more DJ Reader, but I think if I see more DJ Reader, that means I want to see more Levi Onwuzurike than I want to see Tyreek Williams. And I think gradually you obviously want to see more Tyreek. But I would also kind of like him to ease his way in, rather than kind of be, thrown in there. I think you couldn't have a better room for him to go to, than Detroit, with DJ Reader and Aleem and all those other guys. And Casey Rogers is an incredible defensive line coach. So I think you have the right mix of guys there along the interior. Where does Roy Lopez kind of fit into all this after the Lions spent not an insignificant amount of money to get a pure nose tackle in Roy Lopez, and Broderick Martin is still on the roster? Where does Broderick Martin fit into all of this? Is he even going to be a Detroit Lion at the
He's in the room.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh man, who got the in the room comment?
Oh man, I don't remember who it was originally, but yeah. I think it was James Houston, honestly.
It's James Houston. Yes, he's yeah.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be just a guy who's in the room. So there's a lot of pressure.
Jacob's used to it. He's used to being a guy in the room.
Oh no. Well, not the guy in the muffin room, according to him. Not the guy in the muffin room.
I do wonder with Tyreek if, you mentioned that Levi might play more than him early on, and I don't necessarily disagree, and I think it might just be dependent on down in situation too, though. Is Tyreek going to be more of a first and second down guy, and Levi be more of a second and third down guy? I think that makes sense, right? Because where Tyreek is going to be the best served right away is run defense, right? I think everyone talks about his potential as a pass rusher. He has all the physical and mental tools to be that, but he's going to have to learn it. He's going to have to learn the transition mid-play from going from a run defender to a pass rusher. And that's not something that comes naturally or easy or quickly for most players. And so, I think maybe like on the stat sheet, Tyreek is getting a lot of starts this year, but that might literally just mean like you're in for every first down. And that's about it.
Like, do you play him and DJ Reader together early on?
I don't hate it on first downs.
You do.
I think given how much this team talks about earning the right to pass rush and stopping the run, those two right up the middle of the defense on every first down, good luck.
I agree. And also I think it has to play in is Davenport healthy? Because if Davenport's healthy, he's definitely on the opposite of Aiden, and that leaves Levi for more in the middle. If I could see Levi playing a little more edge, them pushing him out there and then forced to play Tyreek more. But you brought up Roy Lopez. I mean, that's why we voted for the Tush Bush, because we're just gonna put him right smack dab in the middle. Like that's our Tush Bush stopper right there.
I love it. You brought it completely full circle there.
Yeah, I know.
I think
it's
that's
like
how
I've
we
done
got
a podcast before.
Yeah,
it's
right.
crazy.
Right. Well, I want to thank you, Jason and Jacob, for coming on, for the very generous donation, for everything you guys do for Lions fans. Again, it's the Talking Grit podcast. You can find it anywhere, including YouTube and Twitch live streaming. You can find the podcast Twitter at Talking Grit Pod on Twitter. And any final words, guys, before we get out of here?
I just want to say this has been a dream come true. Listen to you guys for as long as I have, and actually to be on this podcast, talking with you guys, talking football. And I'm glad Jacob was able to come along and we'd be able to share this together, because this has been important for me as a Lions fan and as a fan of you guys. I love what you guys do. So thanks for having us on.
Definitely. Really appreciate the opportunity. It's, we love talking Lions football, so it's been a really good time. Jason kept his composure almost the whole time.
I know. Yeah. Don't show what happened in the break,
He didn't fangirl too hard.
Well, appreciate you guys. You got something, Ryan? Go ahead.
Yeah, man. We really appreciate the kind words, guys. And like you said earlier, there's more than enough space for lots of perspective on Lions football, and we appreciate you guys joining us and your generous donations you made.
Thank you.
And also, probably worth mentioning, we're recording this on Memorial Day, so to anybody who's out there serving or has served us in the past, very much appreciate everything you guys do to make our lives a lot more comfier. One of the most humbling and rewarding emails that we get are from people overseas that use our podcast as some form of entertainment. And I don't know, it's hard to fathom being that important to other people's lives who are doing things that feel way, 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 way more important than what we do. So if you are one of those people, thank you so much. The very least I can do is spend 30 seconds here saying we appreciate you, because we do on a level that's kind of unfathomable. So we'll leave you guys with that. There are going to be some goofiness to our schedules in the upcoming weeks. I'm taking a vacation on Saturday. This week's midweek mailbag is going to be subscriber only. So if you're not subscribed to Pride of Detroit Direct, go to prideofdetroit.com/subscribe to get access to that episode with me and Eric. I might do a little podcast with my thoughts on OTAs. We haven't really discussed it or planned it out all that much, but just subscribe to us where you subscribe to podcasts and you'll get alerts when we're live. It's as simple as that. And with that, I think it's time to get out of here. Jason, Jacob, thanks again for joining us. Ryan, thanks for being my co-pilot.
Anytime.
I would say bringing me to life.
Oh, man. Oh, I can't wait to watch it. Okay.
All right. Guys, it's chaos. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
All right. The thing I forgot to tell you guys, which maybe you know, maybe you don't know, we are still live after I turned that recorder off. So,
okay.
No, all the words that you were saying before we went live, don't say them now.
Yes,
Yeah.
Jason, keep it under control.
Quit picking your nose,
canceled.
Jacob.
We'll hang around for maybe just like 5-ish minutes and then get out of here, because it is a holiday. You all have families to get home to. Or
You're assuming we want. Wait, they're upstairs listening to this. Yes, I do want to be with them. Can't wait to get up there. Oh, no, I.
go ahead.
Yeah, this has been awesome, guys. And Ryan, I haven't really had a chance to talk to you before, but yeah, it's great. Hanging out with you for a little bit, man. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It was great having you guys on. Like it was honestly like something where it's not so easy to always integrate like new people. Like even when like Jeremy and I do the first bites, like there's like this like kind of feeling out phase really. And I don't know, that lasted all of like 2 minutes until you said that you were nervous to be around me, and then I was like, okay, everything's fine.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's just a little bit of sarcasm, but yeah.
He's not trying to get you on ours.
Yeah, we just our schedule haven't aligned, Ryan. We've definitely
I know. I need to come on.
I know. It's all right. Well, now you're a little more comfortable, and you figure it'd be easier. But yeah, we can come up with something good for you.
Now he knows for sure whether he wants to or no. It doesn't.
Yeah,
want to.
that's good. Just now when he blows us off, we're really gonna know. We're gonna be like, oh crap, man, it's all right.
So, way to go, Jason. You blew it. You just had to make that comment.
Jacob will blame it on me, and that's probably true. But Jeremy, somehow you're gonna be back on our show, so I'm doing something right somewhere.
That's right.
Ryan, I don't know if you know, but like Jeremy came on like episode 5 for us. It's like we had just started our podcast, but it was like this perfect storm. Like Jeremy was doing his hiatus from podcasts because I think you were unclear whether it was all like in the weeds about whether you could be on a podcast or what was going on.
Yeah.
And then, what was it, like Sunday night? I had just started Twitter. Ryan, I had never been on Twitter. Jacob, and so
I used to make fun of him for it.
Yeah,
he gets
exactly.
on Twitter right away.
We at work together. Or Jacob would break all the news to me because I would have no, I'd have to wait to get home and get on POD or whatever else I wanted to. Jacob would break the news. So I get on there. I do my spiel to Jeremy. Jeremy gets back to me because Jeremy's up in the morning at 6:30 in the morning, and I woke up my whole family because I was just like, I was like, this is not happening. We're episode 5, and Jeremy Reisman said he'd be on our podcast.
I was your CJ Gardner Johnson, where you woke up the rest of the family,
and I made that point to you. It was I was like Brad Holmes, and I just felt I could not, I could not believe it. Jacob and I didn't do this podcast to make money. We did this because we wanted to talk football and get access to things that we, normally wouldn't have. And did I think 5 episodes in that Jeremy would be on our podcast? No, didn't think that would be possible. Most nervous feeling I ever had, going into it. It was crazy. And then, he
got back to me though. So he just signed up for Twitter. Like he figured out how to get a Twitter account. It's like 2 days, a day after. And he was like, Jeremy Reisman messaged me back, and he said he's going to be on the podcast. I had to be like, Jason, let me tell you something about catfishing and about people being fake online. Like, you can't just go around messaging everybody and expecting they're going to show up.
I know.
But he did.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
And Jacob did not fully believe me, and I don't know if I fully believed it until he saw Jeremy's face.
Until his face popped up, right?
I was like, AI is so good. This is crazy.
I'll say this, like, the people that reach out to me for just like career advice, the one thing I tell them is like, there is nothing harmful about shooting your shot. Like, you don't want to internet stalk people. You don't want to like constantly bug them and fill their DMs every single day or thing like that. But like, just going out and asking someone, whether it's via Twitter, via email, like, people don't mind those emails. I don't mind those emails. Like, I might let one slip through the cracks every now and then and not respond to one or whatever. But like, I'm constantly surprised by the amount of access I can sometimes get by just asking. Like, it's still like, we've had Mina Kimes on the show like 3 times. Like, she's like
crazy,
the biggest ESPN star, and all took like, we didn't even ask. She asked in the
the first time, in
the wildness that was the ending of the 2023 season, and now there's no nerves in asking someone like her, and we'll
Gosh, that was the end of the 2022 season.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
That's
Jesus.
That's a long time ago. Old friend of the show now at this point.
Right. And we'll get big time. we've really struggled for whatever reason this year with First Bite. Both
Well, it's because we haven't done them in a year.
Yeah, maybe. And so like, yeah, there are people that won't respond, or you'll see that they read your email or your DM and they still don't respond, and it's frustrating and all that. But I don't know, like,
well, on to the next guest. Like somebody will do
right.
it.
And I remember it was last year or 2 years ago or maybe 3 years ago. Taylor Decker was just like, yeah, I did a podcast with these Lions fans because they DM'd me on Instagram. That was it. Like, he's just like, well, no, he caught me at the right time. And I'm just like, sure.
Yeah. Well, we had a situation like that. Jacob's son hooked us up with Tom Grassi. We interviewed him like 2 weeks ago.
That's awesome.
That was just like one of those things that just, sometimes the perfect storm just happens too, right?
Yeah.
You mean you just hit someone at the right time. I've never been so happy to have a Packers fan on my podcast, but it was, it was cool. And it's also like, it was like when I met you, Jeremy, like, you have a perception of someone from watching their videos or, listening to them, and you're really hoping like, please just live up to a little bit of this. And Tom was super gracious and was awesome. Much like when we met, the few times I've met you, you've always appeared like that. Now, I'm not sure about Ryan yet. I'm just, just feeling him out. We'll see. No, I'm just messing. No.
You're blowing it, man.
I know. Shut up. If I hadn't blown it by now, I mean, it was blown a long time ago, and Ryan would have left. He'd be like, "I'm out of the school. I'm going."
There have been like, I mean, I'm not going to say names, but there have been guests that we've had that I've been like, oh, okay, all right, that was fine.
Yeah.
Well, but there have been way more guests that I've been like, oh man, like we had Danny Kelly on a couple times, like from The Ringer, formerly of Field Goals, and like he was an awesome interview and like super gracious with his time, and went above and beyond, I would say, because that's something they also don't tell you is that like podcast guest appearances are for $0.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it was so funny when you guys, not funny when you lost your podcast, but everyone coming out of the woodwork and be like, "Hey, you guys should just do this." And like, no, you lost your RSS feed. You're not, it is like you said it, in the podcast. It is a lot of work, you know, and it's, when you're managing your time, when you have family and all that stuff, you gotta do what works. And it wouldn't be easy just to flip the switch and just start Pride of Detroit podcast from scratch again.
And I'd be lying if like after the grief stage of losing it, there was definitely like a month worth time where we're like, oh, I get to have a little bit of a life again. Like that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like I don't know, part of me still feels like we're just like gaining traction. I know it's been a full year since all that went down, but like there's some things that still like you were saying, Ryan, like First Bite still doesn't feel like I'm necessarily in the groove there, because it's just like it was so I mean, we'd been running for 9 years at that point. It felt so second nature, and it's just like I forgot how hard it can be to book guests. I forgot how we don't do like there's a certain rhythm that we had going into everything before we got canceled, where it's just like we were doing a lot. We were doing a ton. In the off season, we were doing all those call-in shows. We decided when we came back, like we were stretching ourselves probably way too thin, but losing a little bit of that, I hate to use the word momentum, like there is still like, okay, where's that groove that we were in before all this happened? And still trying to figure it out in one end or another, but it's I don't know why I got off on this tangent, but
hey Ryan, I have a question for you. We just kind of talked about it a little bit. Was there a guest that you've had on that you were nervous? Like, I mean, I'm sure Mina Kimes maybe falls in that bucket, but was there someone that for you personally that you were like, I can't believe I'm on the podcast and I hope I have a good showing with this person?
I was gonna say Aaron Schatz, but that's just an inside joke that Jeremy will appreciate. But like the 2017, it'll be just a funny name, but 2017 was the first year that we had credentials, and Jeremy was in California. So like Alex Reno and we were splitting the credentials for, like, I was going to a lot of the training camp, but then we would also we ended up splitting the home games that season in 2017. And that was Jim Caldwell's last season, but I'll say that like being on Matt Derry's show was like he was like calling me like while I was at training camp. So it kind of felt like, oh man, like I'm reporting like from training camp, like with press credentials. And this is Matt Derry, the guy who is the producer of the radio show that I listened to like every single day when he was on with, Valeni and Foster. So it was like somebody that like I grew up like, oh man, like what a cool job that guy has. And now like that guy's giving me a phone call to like find out what's the scoop from Allen Park for the Detroit Lions. And it's like, I don't know, I'm like a college kid, like just finishing up college, and this is like my second gig kind of thing, and I'm like, oh, I think I got to take this way more seriously.
It's going to always go down as like a very fun fact in Pride of Detroit trivia that you were like the first Pride of Detroit Lions beat writer.
Like I take a lot of pride that I set the tone and I didn't like.
You didn't lose those credentials?
Yeah. Like I didn't lose those credentials. I will say like anytime I'm like talking to Dan Miller, like I'm just like yeah. Human beings are really as good as you are. You know what I mean? It's like meeting Clark Kent and it's like, oh, but you are also Superman, but you're that down to earth like all the time. Like just a true and good person like Dan Miller. So but
that's what Tom Grassi said to us. People are people. That's what he said to us afterwards. And I was like, you kind of learn that. I mean, we've only been doing this a year, and yes, we had Justin Rogers on, and he made me nervous because he knows his stuff. and I was just like, he had just started Detroit Football Network, and I was, that was a nerve-wracking thing. Like I told Jacob, I was like, we got to fine tune these questions because if we don't have these right, he's going to just B-list us. And I was like, and I wasn't thinking about the future, but I was like, I do not want to sound stupid in front of this guy. And, I was just like, I gotta be on it, with him. And by that, I was too stupid when I did episode 5 with you, Jeremy, to even think about any of that stuff. But that time it was like the end of training camp. And I was like, okay, I know enough about this podcast stuff that this is a respect thing. I got to be right. And so that one I was really, really nervous on. But he was good. I mean, he was great with me. The times I've met him, he's been nice, but he isn't. He's intimidating to me. He just intimidates me. I don't know.
I get it. He used to be a little bit more rougher around the edges, like especially when he was more active on Twitter. Like he'd fire back every now and then. Like he has a very dry, sarcastic wit that some people attribute malice to, which it couldn't be further from the truth. Like I feel like he complains about the job less than anyone in that room,
especially now.
In a way that like, you'll see me every now and then go on rants like these kind of reports annoy
Christmas
me because
game.
Shut up.
I knew that was coming.
I got an email about that one. But like, when I think bad reporting is out there, right? Like I think there are people that are doing this job incorrectly, which
aggregating.
Even saying that feels very my way is the right way.
No, not when journalism really matters right now. And
fair.
like it's really easy for people to put out AI stuff. But
he is the least bothered by that sort of stuff because he is so confident in his own abilities. And like I need to get to that level of not giving a fuck, for lack of a better term, of just like, yes, these people are successful in their own realms. Yes, these YouTube people or these, columnists, they might have the wrong information out there or misguided information out there and they're getting clicks. I can't change any of that. All I can do is do my best job and stand on that business. And that's something that I think Justin is fantastic at being able to do. I'm not there yet. I'm not. I wish I was, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah, I think Jacob and I had this conversation at work. I mean, at the end of the day, do you want the clicks or do you want, I don't want to say respect, but just to be proud of what you put out there?
Trust
You know,
too, right?
and
Like,
just, yeah. I mean, we're not journalists, Jacob and I. I mean, we're just doing the podcast, but you know, you're journalists and I mean, yeah, I don't want people to click on my article because, you know, it has some catchy headline.
right.
You know, you want them to click on it. You eventually want to earn the trust to be like, okay, this story's out there. I know it's out there. I want to know what this guy thinks.
Right.
And, you know, that's what, you know, if I was in your position, and I think you know, that's where Justin probably remains on that. He's very confident, you know, they'll trust the information I have out there and they want to see my viewpoint on it. And that's why people listen to your podcast. They want to know your view. They want to know Ryan's view. You know, they certainly want to know Eric's view on all that stuff. I mean, those are people that, you know, there are people that they listen to our podcast. I mean, they obviously listen to yours, you know, that's, you know, we've kind of leaned into your, not like I'm stealing anything, but I mean, we're in your lane or whatever. We've, you know, had a lot of POD people on there. So I mean, we're kind of in the same lane, but you know, you just want to have people that like, okay, what did these guys think about it from their perspective? And that's why we've leaned into like the family atmosphere because, you know, that's what we know, you know,
Right.
and how does it affect us? And we like to talk about how our kids are doing and how do we teach our kids? Like, what lessons did we learn in that Commanders game? Because we had a real conversation with my kids on the way back from the car, you know, and they're upset, they're crying. I'm not going to judge them for that, but like, I had to give them some positive things. I'm like, you know, we had a lot, you know, the injury thing. I was like, do we like where this team's going to be next year? And as a longtime Lions fan, I haven't always been like, we have hope next year going from a last year's, and it's, you know, so you have those real conversations.
Yeah.
And so that's, I don't know where I'm going with all that, but that's just kind of that's the way we view
Yeah.
our podcast. And, yeah.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
I love
We said from the
having-
beginning, not being clickbait, not trying to do that kind of stuff. Like
Yeah. Well, I
certain
mean,
Detroit social media things.
oh man, the Commanders we were on a Commanders podcast before and after the game actually. And the Woodward Sports thing had went viral at that point, like before the game. And so they came to us, they're like, what are these guys? And man, we had, you know,
what did they do? I have a vague memory of.
They railed on like the Commanders don't even have a chance in this game. And then, you know, and so they were like, and you know, when opposing fans see stuff like that, they attribute all Lions fans feel like that, you know, and then that's the message. They're like, where did they get these reasonable Lions fans on there? Because we're going to give them, they're in the divisional championship. We're going to give them their respect. Still thought we were going to go in and win that game, but obviously didn't. Then we went on afterwards and had, you know, we didn't eat crow because, you know, but you know, they had asked us before and I wasn't going to say, no, I'm not coming on, you know, after we lost the game. That's like sour grapes. It was a hard podcast. So.
That would be, I was going to say, I don't think I've ever done anything like that, gone on an opponent after. I wouldn't want, I'd have a hard time doing that.
Right.
We like those guys though. And so
Yeah.
like it felt, they were not throwing in the face
right.
at all. It was, it was just a good debate. And part of it was just like, okay, we committed to this beforehand.
Yeah.
I don't know if we fully committed, but we kind of left it open as a possibility. And but I think both Jacob and I felt like, you know, we
Part
taking
of
the
the healing
man's route.
process, or
Yeah, you know, and
that is how
certainly
we
sped it up.
treated the podcast a lot, and it was much more needed in the first 6 years than it has the past 4, where it's just like you do end up feeling a little bit better about the team after talking about a terrible game for 2 hours.
Yeah, it does help a lot.
Men
Yeah,
would rather make a podcast than go to therapy.
yeah.
I remember not wanting to watch. I wouldn't watch anything after a Lions loss. I wouldn't watch anything NFL for like until the following Sunday because I would be so down in the dumps. And then after the podcast, I was like forced into doing it, and I found it very therapeutic. Be like, all right, that's out of my system, and now we can just move on to the next thing. It also helps that we had a very good chance of winning the next week as opposed to pre Dan Campbell, where you know you go on those slides.
Thanks, Vox Media.
Yeah.
Oh man!
All right, I got a couple alerts to go through, and then I think we'll close up shop here. Nick the Greek with a bunch of bits, and I'm debating how many of these I'm actually going to read. 100 bits says, are you guys worried that Brad Holmes has become mad with power and is motivated to deviate from conventional wisdom, whether it's the correct choice or not? I don't... I think he's deviating from conventional wisdom because he believes in it. I don't think it has anything to do with the feeling of power or that he's always right. I don't think he's just like, oh, I've been this good through 3 years. I'm just going to poke every hole in conventional norms now.
I think from the beginning, they believed into it, and that's why they stuck with it the whole way through.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if it wasn't working and then you go 1-6 the second year and you have any inklings that it wasn't the right way, then things start to change.
Right. It's not like just because the gambles have paid off that now we're making bigger gambles and bigger risks and just keep running it up.
Although I do think he has. I think just the way things have played out, I think he has made bigger and bigger gambles.
It's also the roster right now and where you're at.
That's true.
It allows you to, I guess, make those. It's
true.
not just like, well,
I'm doing it to do
see
it.
how good Kirby Joseph turned out. Let me trade up and we'll see what happens this year. But
yeah.
Do you think that opinion comes from like Brad Holmes kind of patting himself on his back and calling out certain media members like after some success? Because I think that's where that thought comes from.
I don't particularly like that. I'm not an impartial judge when it comes to that. Like, I'm in those rooms, and so like knowing that I can be in the crosshairs certainly probably impacts my opinion on him doing that. I just don't think it's a particularly good look for a team that talks about, no ego and like I understand like it also falls into the accountability thing where it's like, okay, we as media should admit when we're wrong, but like he doesn't need to be the harbinger of that. Like, we can do that on his own. He doesn't need to stand up there and say, hey, look at you idiots who thought we should have grabbed a quarterback. Like, I don't like that look of what I thought was a team that was all about like humbleness and just putting your head down and like how many times they say like, oh, we don't read anything outside. Like, once you start listening to the outside noise, that's when you start doing the wrong things. And I don't know. It just, I don't want to say it sounds, it seemed out of character for Brad Holmes, but it does seem out of culture a little bit.
I think
I'd agree with that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't think it's a great look, but as someone who has been one of the few voices that still criticizes Brad Holmes every now and then, he is far more right than I am so far.
Which is like, it's okay. Like, I'm fine with like Brad Holmes being right. You know what I mean? But
Sure.
like, I'm also okay with at least like questioning, like not if they're going to work. I think just like questioning like some of the rationale behind it and like if it serves the best purpose of the football team. And it's like, I don't think there's a lot of room in Lions discourse for that right now. For like there to be like at least a questioning of like if this was in terms of priority, like if that was like the right decision to make or like the right move to make or whatever it may be. I think like Brad Holmes' decisions have become black and white, right? And it's like either you're like just a loudmouth, like how could you question this guy? He's right like way more often than he is. And it's like, or you can just, it's tough. And it's like Broderick Martin exists.
Right.
Like,
But Mrs.
exists.
Right, like Mrs. exists with everybody, but like there has to be some between ground of don't criticize the best general manager in Detroit Lions history. How could you? And this idea that like I'm just going to shut up and believe everything that he does. Like you like I don't know. Can we like what sort of discussions are we supposed to have after the draft if we're just like, well, he's the best general manager.
They nailed it.
Like, right. I mean,
but I think you could also criticize without degrading or something like that.
Right.
Like, when I think what Brad Holmes is calling out was like, this is why the Lions are the Lions because they didn't pick a quarterback. When you come across like that, as opposed to, was trading up for Tesla, mean, that's a valid. When you're asking the question and then having a good discussion about it, to me, that's the right way of going about it, rather than name calling and parading opinion as fact.
Right.
There's a total difference there.
No question. And I mean, I hold the same standard to myself that I do when I talk about players. And it's the thing that I try to repeat time and time again. You can be critical. Don't be insulting. And I understand that's not everyone's style. It's one of the core tenets of how I believe I want to cover the team and the player and things like that. And so, yeah, there's room for being critical about Brad Holmes without calling him an idiot, without calling him, this guy doesn't want to win a championship. He's not serious about winning a championship unless he goes out and gets Trey Hendrickson. Like, no, he just has a differing opinion on how it needs to go. Like, how can you even like throw that accusation that he's not serious about winning a championship? What do you think his entire goal is? Put butts in the seats? No, that is no general manager's goal.
Like when the Lions move up to draft Tesla and you have certain people quipping back with, "Can he get after the Can he get after the passer?
Yeah.
Can he play edge rusher?" It's like, guys, what are we doing? Like,
every move has to be that, or it's not a good move.
That's to Jason's point, right? Like you can, and to your point too, right? Like you can be critical, but you can't be insulting. Like don't try to come off as like you're the smartest guy in the room when you like work for sports radio.
That's right. All right, let me get through the rest of these Nick the Greeks. 100 bits. No, I'm not reading that one about Stafford's daughters. Nope. Another 100 bits says, is it possible that Brad Holmes believes that he will spiritually cleanse the Lions organization by setting third-round picks on fire? Another 100 bits says, trade Anzalone to the Jets for a fifth-round pick. We have to draw the line somewhere in terms of actually saving money somewhere. I
wonder what the Jets would give up for Alex Anzalone.
Fifth round probably sounds about right for a 32-year-old. It does feel like next year he's either playing in Detroit or New York. Like there's no other. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
Console.
So you're assuming AG is going to be in New York next year.
They can't be one and done with him.
If AG's not in New York, the Jets deserve to be pushed into the river.
It's the Jets, though. They probably do, man.
There will be no Sully Sullenberger to help pull that team out of the Hudson.
Do you guys have AFC teams that you root for? Maybe not root for, but like maybe you like pay extra attention to.
I Browns just because I got friends that like the Browns, but mine would change based on story or like players that maybe I like.
Sure.
Year to year, I don't have like one consistent team that other than the Browns, just because like I said, I have friends. But other than that, I don't think so.
I don't have a solid one right now, just because of Harbaugh. It's the Chargers.
See, that's fair.
Like, I want to see them do well and everything. But yeah, I don't have like a solid team that I follow year in, year out. My son is a Dolphins fan for some reason, so we always have to pay extra attention to them. Not that I'm rooting for them, but I just have to watch them more.
Was it because of a player that got him interested in the Dolphins, or?
I don't know, man. It's like, it's like at least he's watching football. At least he's into it and he cares about it.
Yeah.
I think it was just when he first started watching is when Tyreek went, and Tyreek's going off. They're all fast. It's exciting football to watch, and that's just kind of how it happened. I keep trying to pry him back to the Lions, and it's just not happening.
I liked the Dolphins for a while after Ace Ventura, but I'm hoping that's, depending on the age of your son, I hope that's not why he got into it.
Not at all. Has not seen
not go in there. All right.
Yeah.
That'll be a good thing to watch with him in year or two maybe.
Do you have
some of that movie has not aged well.
It's not aged well. No.
No.
Have you ever had like a side team, Jeremy?
A side piece?
Yeah.
Not generally speaking, but I think when I do, it's more based on player than it is anything else. So, like I remember the most I've cheered for an other NFL team, and one of the more satisfying non-Lions games that I got to experience, I wasn't at it or anything, was Arizona beating Green Bay in that playoff overtime game where Larry Fitzgerald took over. Because I was a huge Larry Fitzgerald fan, and of course him beating the Packers was just like that huge play. It was like a 70-yard play in overtime.
But he ran like 120
Yes.
yards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that may have been an Aaron Rodgers Hail Mary game too that sent it to overtime.
Yes. Didn't he have 2? I thought he had 2 in that game.
Maybe.
Like, not 2 for touchdowns, but I think he threw one up,
One in the
like
first
fourth
half or
down
something?
play, and then
Okay,
threw it
yeah.
up. Yeah. And yeah, that made it extra satisfying that that they lost.
Right. So like I was a Cardinals fan for a while.
Cardinals were like, the Lions in just a different
Right.
team and different uniform,
And
for a while.
There's part of me that kind of feels kindred spiritsy with the Baltimore Ravens right now, which I know I'm probably not going to have a Lions fans that feel the same way because like they're a legit AFC contender. They're on the
They've won
Lions schedule
Super
this
Bowls.
year. But like in the Lamar Jackson era, there is this feeling that like they're really good, but are they ever going to get over the hump? And the Lions are early in that, right? Like, but you can already feel a little bit of impatience amongst Lions fans. Where like, okay, we were knocking on the door of the Super Bowl 2 years ago, went 15-2 last year, didn't win a playoff game. Like, no one's gonna say this, I hope, but like, I don't know. It feels like there's just this bubbling underneath the surface of like, if they don't win the Super Bowl this year, like I'm gonna start raising questions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's a lot of fans that are like the clock's ticking. The window's
Right.
closing.
Yeah.
It's got to be now. It's got to be now.
Yeah,
But I think the Lions are in that same thing. When you talk about how many bites at the apple do you want, that's what the Ravens are, right? I mean, they're
Right.
always up there. They have good coach. They're not
That's what I'm
changing
saying.
that coaching. Good general manager. I think the Lions are, they're further behind on that. But do you want like that, or do you want the flash in the pan? I get the Super Bowl and then I'm garbage for, how many years? I mean, where do you want? Do you value the Super Bowl that much that you just want it, and then you could have a decade's worth of just crap football, nothing.
It doesn't help that the Rams, especially, they traded for Stafford, they win the Super Bowl, and then we're like, okay, finally, we get their draft picks, they got the Super Bowl, we can just watch them suck for a while, and that wasn't the case.
Right.
I mean, they're competing again, they're a really good team still with Stafford.
Mm-hmm.
So, that doesn't help because then you're like, okay, well, maybe if you trade for something big and make it happen, you don't have to, you can have your cake and eat it too.
right.
Yeah, I definitely don't want the Lions to meet the Rams again in the playoffs. I know that for sure. Like that's not
I don't want them to play ever again. Period.
Yeah.
Well, they're playing this year, man. So, I was tired of that storyline. I just don't want it.
Console, thank you for the follow on Twitch. Nick the Greek at another 100 bits says Carlos Monarez tried to write Jameson Williams off, but he didn't write back.
I like his next one from Nick the Greek. I wish the Lions would have signed or drafted another quote unquote character concerned guy just to take the heat off of JMO.
Has
Nice.
JMO beat that rep yet? I guess he probably hasn't. Like, I guess he needs like a full
He-
season clear of it.
He beats it until the next story, and then it all comes back. I mean,
Well,
if it happens,
every year it's been something else, right?
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Even the one like the gun charge thing that kind of went away, he still had the suspension last year. So
Yeah.
I hadn't done so much research in the Michigan Penal Code
Oh my god. I
over
forgot.
like an 8-hour stretch
yeah,
than I had right there.
The things you have to write about in this job that you never thought you'd have to write about.
mhm.
My favorite is the legal stuff that I'm not an expert on, and then the other is learning about a music artist I've never heard of for Thanksgiving halftime shows.
nice.
Who is that? Which one?
All of them.
All of them.
I guess
BB Rexa?
I
You
kind
know
of
Jack
knew.
Harlow. Did you not know Jack Harlow?
Not really. I couldn't tell you a Jack Harlow song right now. Like Shabuzi was about as in my comfort zone as I could possibly get, which is I knew that one song.
Everybody knows that one song.
Now-
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we sign Zadarius, is Cash Doll the Thanksgiving Day artist.
That's another one where like I didn't. Everyone's like, oh, this local Detroit rapper. I don't know who that is.
Kudos to you, Jason, for remembering her name.
Yeah.
I know. Well, I don't have a poster or anything. Or
Oh, I don't know. You went straight to poster, so
I did
now.
poster.
That was odd, right?
That's a concrete noun.
Can you move the camera a little bit that way?
No. Stop it. Got her video playing on this TV right over here.
There's a whole shrine, like a picture of Meeks, Darius Smith's nephew that they gave a guaranteed contract to.
That's right.
It all adds up, right?
Yeah,
right.
that's
Cash Doll's going to be able to perform at Thanksgiving. Like there's some ways they can take care
That's-
of Darius Smith.
that's why
outside
they
the
haven't-
salary cap.
It's why they haven't signed him yet. They're still like working out all the
Playing the long game.
kinks.
Yeah, that's right.
You heard that? Jeremy Reisman reporting it.
Careful. Bolt's beat might pick it up. Careful.
Okay.
How Jeremy? How often do you get misquoted?
I don't know. I think there was one site that was particularly obsessed with me that I've severed any acknowledgement of, that they probably still do it, but I don't pay attention.
Oh, okay. God, that would be frustrating.
The aggregators are the ones you have to be a little bit more careful of, because they can get followings in a very short amount of time. And so while I wish they would just click the retweet button rather than put my tweet into their own words, which opens up to a lot of misinterpretations.
Onto a graphic.
Right. There's really not that much I can do about it. I can reply to them if I want to, but like, yeah, it can be frustrating, but in general, like, I don't think it happens that often. I don't think anyone really ever quotes me from the podcast, but I do try to be very careful about what I say just in case, because I've done that with other podcasts, right? Like, I've taken quotes from other podcasts, and I think there's like sometimes this sense of like invulnerability when you're talking on a podcast, like, oh, well, this isn't me officially reporting anything, but you have to realize that, like, I'm a Detroit Lions reporter. People are going to hear what I say, and unless I say right before, like, hey, this is me completely guessing, this is not any sort of insider information, some people might write an article that says Lions writer says Detroit tried to trade up in the first round for an edge rusher, right? Like,
Yeah. When it was just all conjecture, right?
Right.
Like, yeah.
that's something I had to learn, though, because I'll be honest, like, being on a podcast, it feels like you can talk a little bit looser. You can say things that might be guided by some things that you've heard on or off the record, but like, if you're not careful, people are going to take that as gospel.
Yeah. No backspace button.
That too. Yes. Right. So, there are times in which I do want to say particular things that maybe were off the record that I just can't. Like, I can't say it. I can't, even though it would fit right into the conversation I'm having. And there are ways to talk around it where you're not saying specifically what was told to you. But again, you just have to be careful. You can't, like, even a little like offhand comment. I was like, well, this, I talked to one person who said this. Like, suddenly that's a story to somebody. So yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
Dr. Dunlap, thank you for the 32 months and another 100 bits from Nick the Greek, who says, is it true that before Kyle Mikey left for Germany, he told the entire Lions beat that he could, quote, see the color of sound? No, I don't believe so. I haven't heard from Kyle in a while. I hope he's doing all right.
Yeah.
I know he's watching at 2 a.m.
Of
over
course.
in Germany right now.
The talking great guys, yeah, I was right on his radar. He's like, all right, I got to see what these guys have to say.
He's like, that guy stole a muffin from me at training camp.
Oh, man. All right. I got to head to the grocery store here real quick.
I think it is time to get out of here. Jason, Jacob, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
That was a lot of fun.
Definitely,
Honestly,
thank you.
very, very fun.
For sure.
Good. Well, I had a great time too. Thanks.
Of course. Again, if you want to hear and see more from them, Talking Grit podcasts, just Google that everywhere. You'll find an outlet for it. I'll be on there in a couple weeks, and they'll have plenty of content that's great without me. Probably most of it is great without me. But anyways, appreciate you guys spending your Monday evenings with you or whenever you're watching or listening to this. We'll be back. I don't know when. Because, again, the midweek mailbag is exclusive over to Pride Detroit Direct. You'll get 2 podcasts on Pride Detroit Direct this week. You'll get that, and you'll get Isaac Teslaw First Bite with Arkansas beat writer, whose name is currently escaping me because I don't remember anybody's name.
It's okay.
I was hoping you'd back me up there and say it.
It's
something really short.
I could tell you right now.
It's like Al Gore, but not Al Gore.
It's definitely not Al Gore though. Like,
I was thinking Preston guy. He was the LSU guy.
No, Ethan Westerman.
Way off.
Way off.
Very short.
I've heard it both ways.
Yeah.
He goes by EW.
Tomato.
All right. Again, PrideDetroit.com/subscribe if you want to get access to that.